There it is again, the familiar skyline of Houston, Texas, this tremendous city, one of the great cities on the earth. And this week, the host of the biggest event in bass fishing, the Geico Bassmaster Classic, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. The city coming to life, this day two coming to life in this pursuit of the World Championship. And as they always say, this is like they call moving day. You have to be in the top 25. As they say down at NRG stadiums, today is the day you have to move the chains.
The 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, being brought to you live by Berkeley.
Oh, it goes by so fast, these 3 days of fishing. This happened in a flash on the weigh-in stage yesterday. Brett Ehrler of California bringing in a giant. They're almost a 10-pound largemouth from Lake Conroe to take the lead. The first day of the Bassmaster Classic, first of 3 days of fishing, and the California man on top, but not much of a lead. Still very, very tight here as you take a look at our playing field as the sun begins to crawl across the horizon, and these 52 anglers giving it one more shot today, and this is the day you have to give it all. As we said, you got to be in the top 25 if you want a shot at day number 3, the day which you have a chance to put your hands on the trophy that means everything in this sport. Every angler making the final preparations. Hopefully you know more than you did yesterday. Here with Davey Height and Mark Zona. And guys, I don't know, some of these guys may not feel like they know more than they did yesterday.
I kind of go back to that visual of what Brent Ehrler was holding right there. For the simple fact, if you looked at the scale of that bass, it was as big as Brent Ehrler in a large way. And the other side of that is if you're just tuning in to this classic, and you're sitting at home, the one word that we talked about coming into this tournament, Davey Height, was diversity. That this tournament was going to be all over the map. And if you're sitting at home and you're a deep water fisherman or you're a shallow water fisherman, this classic has everything at this point in our top 10.
It really does. Like no other classic I've ever seen. Guys are doing so many different things because the fish are in different phases. There are fish that are still pre-spawn. There are guys that caught fish off the bed yesterday. We saw some, we talked to some. And then the guys that really caught those heavier weights throughout the top 10 seem to be catching post-spawn.
There's our leaderboard right there. You see on top Brent Ehrler, not much of a lead over Bradley Roy of Kentucky, shooting up there at his first bid for a Bassmaster Classic. He'd like to get his first one under his belt. Cliff Crochet, though, the guy who shot to the top of the leaderboard as we started, the Cajun Baby taking charge early on.
Yeah, the Cajun Baby. He's had an awesome start to this season. Led the Cherokee event the first day, had a great day yesterday. I hope he continues to catch him.
Hey,
fun guy to interview.
Absolutely. Come inside with us at the George R. Brown Convention Center, this massive facility in downtown Houston, Texas. We're right in the heart of the third biggest city of the United States. The Dick's Sporting Goods, is presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, the expo here, the Classic Expo. This place will fill up in a while, but we are filling up with information and hoping to get more as we get this day started. The dream team in place, Mark Zona, Davey Height, and the rest of them. We'll introduce everybody in just a moment here. But guys, I got to say something about this at the top. We look at the 23 plus for the top weight. Everything was telling us it would be a little bit higher. We'd be closer to 30 pounds today. And there's always wishful thinking. Heck, in 2005, somebody was whispering in our ears about 6-pound smallmouth in the Monongahela River. You always want to hope for the best, but it never quite turns out
well,
like you expected.
Well, that guy doesn't work for us anymore, Tommy Sanders.
Well, I guess that's right. Okay.
The interesting thing that we got to see yesterday after the weigh-in was all of the Texas Bass Classics that have gone on here. I really watched the numbers of keepers that guys caught with the 16-inch size limit. If you catch a keeper here, it's generally a pretty good one. And talking to a lot of the anglers in our top 10, a lot of them were scared. They only caught 6, 7 keepers. With that being said, Davey Height, a few of them would look at us and go, I caught a lot. And I mean, I caught a lot of keepers. We've got a camera on one of those anglers today. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And generally, when we're tracking an angler that says, I'm catching a lot and I'm catching big ones, they don't want to give us much more information after that.
They don't. Yesterday was my first time in those interviews, really getting to to talk to the guys personally like we did, and it was very interesting. You don't just look at the leaderboard. Obviously, you want to, but we learned a lot of stuff yesterday, Tommy, talking to those guys that I'd never done before. And like you said, some of the guys that are up there in the top 10, top 5, they only had 6 bites yesterday, and you could tell they're very concerned. But then you had some guys that are definitely within reach that, I caught a lot of them. I caught 20. You know, that sort of thing, you better watch those guys this morning.
All right. Well, and we talk about those different approaches, that differentiation, that diversity of tackle out there. We might want to go through and break it all down, but let's talk about something else that we were doing a lot of leading up to this tournament, talking about Keith Combs. He was like an almost odds-on favorite to win this thing. And still, maybe he can get something done today, but it had to be the shocker of the tournament.
I don't know. I'm stuttering. Shocker on that is Mercer last night after the weigh-in, he said, you still have to watch Keith Combs in there. I said, Dave, he's 15 pounds behind of the, I understand he's still, he owns this lake with the history he has here. Just from watching him yesterday, Davey, and you practiced with him for 8 hours, what did you take away?
Well, first of all, I was in the elevator with you guys, and I said I've never felt like one guy had a better chance, a more dominant pick to win the Classic after I was with him on the water for 8 hours, and I don't think I was wrong there. The guys that we talked to yesterday that caught those offshore post-spawn fish were fishing the exact kind of places that Keith Combs fishes here. But the one thing I noticed, because he was such a favorite, he had put so much into this tournament, I don't think he slowed down enough yesterday. We saw the guys fishing offshore, Mike Iaconelli and some of the guys we talked to yesterday, and the quote they said, painfully slow. And I don't think Keith Combs ever slowed down painfully slow. And those post-spawn fish, we'll get in this more today, they're not wanting to chase baits. They're not wanting to bite that crankbait. And Keith Combs has made his living throwing those crankbaits.
And the other, really, if you looked at just Combs all day, we've covered him so much, Sanders. He never looked comfortable.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
You just never got an even shred of good feedback to get his day. So the tiniest bit would have totally changed his day, you think, right?
And really, he did call the shot in this tournament. He said, look, there are going to be some phenomenal stringers that come from up lake, as far up this lake as, and he nailed that. I mean, we're going to have cameras on guys that are going as far as you can take a boat on the north end of this lake. And the other things that Combs said, I'm going to keep going back to his predictions, is there's no way those guys can back up those stringers.
Yep. He said that. He's dialed into this place. It is unbelievable to see that he struggled as much as he did yesterday. But Mike Iaconelli, we saw it yesterday, have the live camera on him. That 6-pound fish that he caught mid-morning made his day. He came that close to abandoning everything and running up the river. Yep, and just that one fish changed his whole day.
All right, well, you can see the crowds. We just saw a shot of the crowd starting to gather there. The sun's getting higher now. Hey, we got Dave Mercer, our own Dave Mercer, getting ready to send these 52 out, and the guy who's going to go out with the lead now, Brent Ehrler. Dave Mercer, take it away.
He's a spirit animal, Tommy Sanders.
Just a few minutes till takeoff. Real quick here, Brent Ehrler. 12 minutes till you leave this dock. You're leading the Geico Bassmaster Classic. The whole reason you came to the Elite Series is to fish this event. It all comes down to this. What does that feel like?
It's amazing. We worked all last year to get right here where we are today. And then when we're here today, you work to get exactly where I'm at in this, at this exact moment. I have 2 more days. I have to catch them. I'm excited because it's the Bassmaster Classic.
You look at our leader, obviously, Brent Ehrler, your second Classic. You look at the guy right behind you, Bradley Roy. Going to talk to him in a split second here. What is it? This season, it seems to be, not that you're a rookie at all, but a rookie in Classics.
It's just, you never know. There's so many good fish here that at any given point, someone's going to win. Someone has to win. It could be anybody, seriously. So it doesn't matter if this is their first Classic, if this is their fish, the elites, if they qualify through the Bass Nation, they can win this tournament.
It is a life-changing event. Looking at the conditions today, concern you? What needs to happen out there for you to seal the deal?
It needs to be the calmer the better for me. I'd rather have it kind of calm. I can run around. That's what that I would like. When it gets rough, it's hard to kind of move and chase and find the areas where I can get a bite. The biggest key for me is just confidence. Just put my head down and grind it out.
Come here with me, because this dude right here is trying to chase you down. You've won just about everything there is in fishing. This is your opportunity to look him in the eye and trash talk him, throw off his game.
I'm not a talker. I can't do that.
Well, he's not willing to trash talk. How about you, Roy?
Man, it's a night.
Okay, we're having a little trouble with our signal. Actually, 2 former rookies of the year right there.
Yes.
Brett Ehrler,
Yes.
possibly like the world's oldest senior right there when he was rookie of the year. So decorated when he won that award. And Bradley Roy, youngest guy ever to fish the Bassmaster Elite Series. Brett Ehrler, though, listen to what he said, very, very important, and he stressed this to us yesterday. So much of his success is based on his ability to move around, not followed by a bunch of people. Stealth is very important to his game.
In fact, I think the 2 people that he referenced is in his interview yesterday with us. He said, you think a lot of people will follow KVD and Iaconelli and get away from me? I said, no, you're leading the Classic. There's going to be a lot of people around you. But really where he said, look, here's the best way to put it. If you look at Ehrler right now, he's fishing around a lot of other anglers. He doesn't have some magical spot that he's left alone. And he said, I need these. He caught them very, very, very shallow. He said, I need those fish to rest. I need a quiet area. I said, well, it's not going to be that on the second day of the Classic. And really, the other thing, Davey, that he talked about was today having the ability to run around, where he said Conroe yesterday with the winds, he said, was worse than Lake St. Clair.
Yeah.
And today it's going to open it up a lot more.
It really surprised me when he said that. When he said it was as rough as Lake St. Clair gets, that shocked me. It wasn't blowing very hard in here yesterday. My new gig, I didn't realize it was quite so rough. But I get exactly what Britt was saying. There again, doing those interviews, that was a new deal for me yesterday. I've seen the exact same scenario before. Megabucks that I fished years ago, I was on a shallow wood bite, and you'd catch some fish, some really good ones, big ones set up on wood, your first pass, and then you could make 3-4 more passes, not get a bite. And these were pre-spawners moving into shallow wood, very similar to what I think Brett's doing. Go away for an hour, or just go 100 yards away and fish some stuff where you probably knew you weren't going to get a bite, but those fish position, they set up, and once they set up and get in the position to ambush or to attack or get on their beds, whatever the scenario might be, then you can catch those fish. If you keep moving around, if he has a lot of people following him in that shallow water, have a tough time catching them today.
And really, Sanders, this is one of the things that Combs told us, and I thought this was amazing as we're looking at Van Dam getting ready. Van Dam, a ton of confidence after the day one weigh-in
big story
yesterday.
today, huge story today.
No doubt about that. We'll get into his whole deal, but one of the things that I want to rewind to last weekend when all of these anglers were really putting their time in on Conroe is Combs made the comment, if you caught them really good last weekend in practice, a pretty good chance that you're going to have a horrible Classic. And I said, you need to explain that to me right now. He said, I think the guy that has a really horrible practice is going to end up catching them the first day of the Classic. Who's the guy that told us at Media Day how bad it was?
Yep.
It was Brent Ehrler.
Oh, my God.
Brent
There
Ehrler
you go.
looked at Davey and I were standing there. He said, you don't want to interview me. He goes, one of the worst practices of my life, and is leading the Classic. And really try to break that down, what Combs was talking about.
Because the fish are moving so
Right.
much, there are more fish going out, and I think Keith probably was saying or thinking that a lot of guys were catching them shallow, moving into spawn, and he thought that they were going to move out quick. They're not moving out quite as quickly as a lot of people thought, including myself. But those shallow guys are going to have a tougher time, in my opinion, to close the deal by Sunday than the guys that are fishing offshore that are banking on those post-spawn fish to come out on.
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure out what I thought Keith Combs was talking about, but I guess his point was, if you're fighting out of the chaos from minute number one, you got a better shot at it. If you already think you have it laid out, you may waste a half a day, even a whole day of these shortened tournament, only 3 days, as opposed to 4. That was a great point, and he, I think he got caught up in it just a little bit, his own admonition.
Absolutely. He got caught up in it. And those fish are moving out, and they're just now moving out, and I think that's why the guys that use the soft plastics out on those deeper spots, painfully slow, we heard that comment from several folks. I think those are the guys that caught them because those fish are literally moving out by the hour.
Now, the other story coming into this second day, we might as well let it out here. It was the interview, taking a look at a lot of our anglers heading out right now, was the interview with Cliff Perch, who's fishing down near the dam, who was fishing within a couple yards of Mike Iaconelli. Cliff Perch was the angler during our post-game interviews yesterday that said, no, I had a great practice. I said, well, did you catch a lot of keepers today? Yeah, I caught a lot of keepers today. And here was the interesting thing. There were so many anglers down at the dam yesterday, Iaconelli, Van Dam, Takahiro Omori, Cliff Perch, and he made the comment, I really needed those anglers to kind of get out of there so I could do my deal. I needed the area to settle down. And granted, he's fishing deeper. It really taught. I want you to, because that was your first time with him in a post game on a classic. Talk about his demeanor.
It was very interesting. He didn't want to talk much at all, and just his confidence, but his cautious confidence. And he talked about those guys that were around him yesterday. Yeah, a couple of them caught one. Then there was a guy that caught 2. He was watching every single one of them. The thing about Clifford Perch, when I've been around him fishing, he stays in one area,
milks it.
Not a very big area. He milks it, but he spends so much of his practice. He knows every inch of it. We talked about Keith Combs knowing this whole lake. Clifford Perch doesn't know this whole lake, but he might know one little area that if it can keep replenishing like he thinks it can, and I think it possibly can, he could be the guy to win this thing.
He was very, very close to the vest with his information. Davey, you asked him, I said, okay, well, let me ask you this. Can you go in after these guys you're wanting to get out of here, get out of there and catch them? He says, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can
and that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
And what we always do, gang, and we're having a little bit, some of the cameras are locking up. There's so much cell dividing going on out there right now is what we always do after the first day of the Bassmaster Classic. We sit there and do our little bets with each other and stuff like that. And I always say to Tommy, and when you walk out of there, you know who is in good shape. This is my opinion. I want to get your guys' opinion. After interviewing almost every single angler in the top 15, I looked at you, Sanders. I looked at you, Davey. I said, I'll bet my house Clifford Perch wins this tournament.
Yeah, you did.
You did.
Both of you did. You said, let's give it to him now. Come on.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And I know, there's obviously some of the most world-class anglers that are in our top 15, but there was a quiet aura that I have never seen in a classic competitor after the weigh-in.
And not to pile on, but the final bit of information he gave us, he said, well, I guess we expect you to sit there all day long. He said, well, yeah, I've got some other spots on the lake that are just as good as that.
Right.
The only other person that had that confidence, but we've seen this 1,000 times, was Kevin Van Dam. You better keep your eye on him. And I know people are going to say, well, he's a good friend of yours. He sure is. Tell the truth. He had that same confidence, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
We were sitting, and here's kind of the process that goes on is that, the anglers come in, and Van Dam wouldn't even sit down. He's like, oh, it's going to be a good weekend. It's going to be a lot of big ones caught. Some by me.
Yep.
Well, let's take a look at a guy who really put on the show for us. The big show among our five live, our Rapple of Five live yesterday was the former classic champ, Michael Iaconelli. Got it started in the first hour.
Exactly right, and Iaconelli was fishing, yards away from Clifford Perch, catching this big one in the first hour, and then things kind of really slowed down. He backed it up with another solid 3-pound fish, fishing, call it 10 to 20 feet of water, really on the dam wall. A lot of other anglers around down there was fishing a Carolina rig, and things, they slowed down from there. And Davey Height, you made the comment, this right here was the turning point in his day.
It was. We talked about it yesterday when it happened. We really felt like that. And then last night when we talked to him in the interview, he said, I was that close to being mentally done. And we all know what happens when he gets mentally done. But it did. The cool thing about him in the interview yesterday, And you talked to him before the tournament. He didn't expect to get but 6 or 7 bites a day.
Game over, folks.
That's all he got yesterday.
Game over.
But he expects that. It's still hard to deal with. It's easy to say, all I need is 1 bite every hour and a half, but to be patient in that situation is tough.
Exactly right, and that's going to be the Humminbird lay of the lake. If you look at the mouth of Walden Marina right there, this is a notorious stomping ground on this lake. And Iaconelli was kind of at the bottom of your screen right there in a little transition area where fish are coming into here to spawn and fish are leaving this marina from getting done spawning. Edwin Evers spent the better side of 3 hours on the right-hand side of Walden Marina yesterday, proving there are a lot of fish coming and going just in this little 200-yard stretch.
Now, Keith Combs and the other old sticks from around here told us this is not a place known for great replenishing spots. Is Iaconelli's spot the exception here?
It is a textbook replenishing spot. If anybody in this tournament has a spot that I think can replenish, it's that exact spot that he's fishing.
If you look at our lay of the lake there, again, 2 different lakes.
There's no doubt about it, Tommy. If you look at the anglers that are in the top 12, yeah, you see an Iaconelli and a Clifford Perch who are really concentrating on that deeper water bite. Bradley Roy, another angler, concentrating on deep water, but fishing more up the lake. And the other side is Bradley Roy left all alone. The other anglers you have to watch right now, Matt Herron, James Elam, and as far up the lake as you can go, Cliff Crochet. And here's the great thing. If we have great coverage this morning with him, you could see some of the most phenomenal topwater bites you can imagine.
Absolutely. We're just waiting to see, fingers crossed. That's up in a state forest, national forest type area, very remote, but it's getting up close to Huntsville, so maybe we'll do really, really good up there. Definitely want to see the Cajun baby in action, and there he is right now. He is holding court. This guy is a great conversationalist. You can sit down and talk to him for 5 hours.
He was.
Here we go. Can we hear him? Okay, all right. He's got his mind on his money right now. So
he was the only guy that we talked to yesterday that he just wanted to keep talking.
We had to call security to throw him out, which is fine.
And one more thing, guys.
Yeah. We started playing the Oscar music.
I think you did.
Love talking to him.
And there was a 1-2 punch up there. He's fishing a topwater frog and flipping exactly what he does. He did not. He was one of the anglers that did not hide a single thing. Now, that being said, he did see one other angler in his area, and it's a scary shallow water angler. He saw Matt Herron, and I said, Cliff, can y'all survive up there together, dividing fish as shallow as you're? I mean, they're fishing a foot, literally as far as his trolling motor can get them up there in 15 to 18 inches of water. I said, can you survive up there dividing those fish together? And he said it's a bigger area. He goes, when you guys get to really see it up there, and he feels a lot of those ditches and drains, the way little backwater kind of canals up there are feeding those guys by the day, fish getting done spawning.
Two things this morning I think we really need to pay close attention to. There was a severe storm that moved through there about 5 o'clock this morning. These guys going to the dam, the bite could be on a lot better than it was yesterday. I think it could really be better for them there. But then the guys up north in that shallow water, those drains that you're talking about, it depends on how much rain they got. It could really just wash those guys out.
All right. Just minutes away from fishing starting. The takeoff is underway right now. I want to know what you two guys are looking forward to in the first hour. What are we going to see that we might miss if we don't watch the first hour?
I'm going to come right out and say I want to see the dynamic between Clifford Perch and Iaconelli, because they were fishing within 50 yards of each other yesterday, with Van Dam about 200 yards down the face of the dam. And here again, we didn't talk about this yet. There is a distinct shad spawn in the morning of activity, and Van Dam and guys like Edwin Evers capitalized quickly yesterday.
All right, we talked about all of those guys and who we watched yesterday and what happened in the first hour. These are the 5 we're covering today. We'll be with them live. Of course, Clifford Perch, we have talked at length about him, and Clifford Perch holding down that 5th place spot, looking for his first classic win, looking for his first win with the Bassmasters, if you can believe that. He's had a lot of success all around the sport of bass fishing, though.
From there, we're going to take a look at Mike Iaconelli. We have a vibe that Clifford Perch and Iaconelli are going to be pretty close to each other this morning, at least if you're going off of yesterday. But here's the thing. We're on one of the most power fishing lakes in the country, two guys in the top 5 who kind of owned it yesterday with a spinning rod, being Perch and Iaconelli.
And Cliff Crochet, if we've got service on him this morning, it's going to be awesome. He's doing what he does, throwing a frog. Nothing gets any more exciting than throwing a frog, especially at the Bassmaster Classic.
All right, our Raffle of 5 Live also includes this man here, Bradley Roy, the young man from Kentucky, looking for his first Bassmaster Elite Series win, and now looking for his very first shot at winning a Bassmaster Classic. Had an impressive day yesterday.
Exactly right. Definitely did some homework on this lake, kind of owned pre-practice, and, well, doing pretty fair in the Bassmaster Classic. But first place from California, Brent Ehrler. And gang, if you are just tuning in, 3 anglers in the top 5 fishing offshore. You've got 2 anglers in the top 5 fishing well. Davey Height, about 10 inches of water. And your leader, he said, you won't see me going past about 3 foot of water all day long.
It's unusual to see him fishing that shallow, but that's just the practice he had and where he found the most fish. One thing I've got to mention, Mercer tried to get him to talk a little smack this morning. He's such a nice guy. He won't go there.
He won't.
Super. Now, one of the nicest guys
I know
you'll
Ehrler
ever
pretty
meet.
well. He was probably thinking some things. Trust me.
Well, yeah, you spent some time on the water. That's going to be one of our assets today. We're going to get the real scoop on what the real Brett Ehrler is like, our leader in the second, going into the second day of this Bassmaster Classic. Again, if you're just picking up with us, great. Have a great Saturday morning. Spend it with us. We'll be here with 6 hours of Bassmaster live coverage for you. We'll go for 3 hours, take a little mid-morning break, and then come back and wrap up with 3 hours. Take you almost within an hour of wind-em-up time. So I think we're going to see a lot today on such an important day on Lake Conroe. Again, at the end of the line, the championship, the $300,000, the $1 million plus purse out there, and a life that's going to be changed. We ended up our day talking with you and Chris Lane about how much your life has changed. And for everybody, new visitors who are just joining us, how important this single title is, Davey.
It's the most important thing I've ever done outside of my family. It's the most important thing I've ever done, to be able to win the Bassmaster Classic. I dreamed my whole life of being able to fish for a living, and really didn't even dream, to be quite honest with you, about winning the Classic, because I didn't think I was good enough. But then when it happened, when I finished second, gave me the confidence. Just a few years before I won, when I finished second, I thought, man, I might be able to do this. And all I can say is it's everything you could ever dream that it would be. The most incredible year of my life. Just awesome to be able to hold that trophy over your head and represent the sport of professional bass fishermen and try to do it in an honorable way.
Want to talk about the Classic being a process. All of you guys talk about practice as a process here. The media is a process. Day 1 is. Talk about this day, day 2 of the Classic, and what you went through when you won it, and what's spinning through your head going into this morning.
Well, there's several things. The one thing, because I've been there, Bradley Roy, he had a great day yesterday, and he's one of those guys that's fishing offshore, and he's figured out fishing painfully slow is a good thing. He talked about catching a 12-pounder when he was here pre-fishing. But he's young, and we're going to see how he reacts and responds.
Never been on live.
The first time I was on the big show, the first time I was on a big stage at the Classic, I blew it. I got caught up with the Classics, and I got caught up thinking about how great it was going to be when I held that trophy up, and I didn't hold it up because I was busy thinking that and not focused on fishing. But it was a lesson well learned, because the next time I had an opportunity in 1999, I was 100% focused, because I knew you're not going to have many chances to win the Bassmaster Classic. Not many people ever have a chance. You're certainly not going to have many.
On a day 2 like this, where you look at experience, winning big titles in Ehrler, in Iaconelli, in Alton Jones, Van Dam sitting down, do you lean a lot towards the guys that have been there, done it?
That's a great question. I do. And I get a lot of flack from people saying, oh, you're just pulling for those guys because you know them. No, I know that it takes mental toughness to finish this deal. I laugh all the time when guys say, it's just another tournament. Oh, no, it's not. And you will find that out one day if you're lucky. It's not just another tournament.
Boy, the mental toughness of these guys will be tested today like never before, and that's the whole reason we have the Bassmaster Classic. You got to identify the best guy in the sport, and this is a good test for him. Might even say a great test. Kevin Van Dam, who's one of the contenders, looking to break out and set a new record for Classics 1, said the winner of this one, will be the man, because you will have been fighting through a whole lot to get there. Houston, Texas, our host city. It's been great so far. We can only hope for bigger things today. We can't wait to come back to you when the fishing gets started in earnest. As you guys both said, the first hour of competition is going to tell us a lot.
Money early today.
Yeah, go get your coffee right now. We'll be back, get it up, and get fishing when we return to Houston, Texas, and Lake Conroe.
The 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods is brought to you by Berkeley, Hook, Humminbird, Mercury, Minn Kota, and by Nitro Boats.
The ultimate predator has evolved again. Now, Yamaha B.A.S.S SHO Performance is prowling the waters in 4 hungry, exciting new models. With their 4 valves per cylinder and double overhead cam fuel-injected design, these advanced 4-stroke predators are taking performance to a whole new level. Vicious, lean, efficient. V.A.S.S SHO. The pack is growing.
This Tundra for me is more than just a vehicle. The way that we travel in professional bass fishing, it's our home. As a competitor, man, I want to win. That desire to win, to be the best, that's never weakened. It's been the same from when I was 13, 14 years old to now. It hasn't gone away.
Toyota, let's go places.
Let us make this absolutely clear. The days of wasted casts and missed opportunities are over. New Mega Imaging takes fishing into the megahertz range for the first time, because higher frequency sonar means higher frequency of this. Without a doubt, it's the most detailed picture of the world below ever. And it's only from Humminbird.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
It's a game changer.
This thing steers just as easy in the thick stuff as it does out there in the open water.
It's much quieter. It's more responsive.
Hit one button, and you're locked down.
It's holding us right in place. It's anchoring us right here.
That new spot lock is dead on.
You know, the only fighting you have to worry about is fighting the fish now.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's the 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, being brought to you live by Berkeley.
Day 2 of the Bassmaster Classic. That's the piece of iron right there that is the object of desire for 52 guys who have worked so hard, a lifetime in most cases, to get to this point, to get a chance to win the World Championship of Bass Fishing. It's Geico Bassmaster Classic 2017, the 47th edition of this great event, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods this year. And we are just anticipating big-time fireworks today. The first hour, as we said, very, very important as we go out to Cliff Perch. 5th place, 2011 on day 1.
Well, the one thing you can tell, a big difference this morning compared to yesterday, you could tell that wind has shifted directions. Yesterday, hard, call it 15 to 25 miles an hour, sometimes gusting up to 30, 35 miles an hour out of the south. You can tell that front is passing through, wind switching. I would say you're looking at about a northwest right there.
Yep. could definitely change things. I would think it helped the bite a little bit at the dam. We're going to find out because there's several really good fishermen that caught them there yesterday morning. They're back there this morning.
Cliff Perch, we're having a little trouble with his picture just getting started today, but that shad spawn that started yesterday, a lot of people said they weren't aware of it, but it seems like we were told about it. But it's a different animal. This is not like what we saw at Toledo Bend last year with Kevin Van Dam and others getting loaded up in the morning. These shad look different when you look at your graph.
No
right?
doubt about it, and guys like Iaconelli and really, you got to say that Perches, they're totally ignoring that shad spawn. Van Dam was fishing really the face of that dam yesterday. He was fishing kind of that, call it 4 to 12 foot of water, throwing a deep diving jerkbait. But really, Iaconelli and Perch, they were offshore more. They were kind of holding 20 to 25 foot of water, making long casts. And I asked Perch yesterday, I said, where are those bites coming from? He says, man, I'm catching them from 2 all the way out to 25.
He really did. Every question we asked him, he was catching them that way and every way, and lots of them. It's really incredible. Like you mentioned, though, I'm surprised. Some folks said they didn't know about the shad spawn. I think they all knew about it. But some guys are totally not even trying to catch some of those fish. There's some guys that tried that yesterday morning, and I think it really made a disaster of their day because it didn't happen and they got out of rhythm. They got out of sync. Keith Combs was one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it was a big component for Kevin Van Dam. We watched him a lot working that, and both of you guys were shocked at how slow, how deliberately he was picking this area apart.
And the reason why is he said, look, it was mine. Nobody else was fishing that area, and he goes, I could take my time, and I didn't have to blast out of there. The other thing, though, is if you were watching Bass Track yesterday, Edwin Evers really was the hero of the shad spawn yesterday morning, catching a limit. It was seamless. He caught a limit in about 45 minutes or less.
All right. Let's take a look at our TH Marine weather watch for today. Yesterday, of course, the air full of electricity, impending storms, approaching storms, very, very warm, very, very muggy. Let's take a look at it right now. Definitely a different look to this morning in the fact that we can see some clear sky up above, and that's the outlook for today is sunny skies, high, a little bit warmer, about 80 degrees, winds 9 miles an hour. That's a huge change from yesterday.
A huge change. The thing we don't want to forget about, a severe storm moved through the whole lake this morning really early, just before daylight. The shad spawn could be very different this morning because of that. A lot of things could be very different starting out this morning.
And I think the other, we've called it an X factor yesterday, is there another wave of bass coming into spawn? If you talk to a guy like Ish Monroe after the weigh-in yesterday who caught, by the way, take a look at some of the weather that came through earlier this morning. I mean, there was severe storms. Ish Monroe made the comment. He was another angler that was very vocal. He said, look, man, I caught 20 to 30 keepers, and he said majority of them were spawning. And he made the comment here on this lake. Ehrler talked about it. Edwin talked about it a little bit. He said they're hard to see on this lake. There's a lot of fish still locked on. You'll see a bed, and then all of a sudden a shadow moves away. It's not like, hey, there's one sitting in the middle of a dish pan. It's not that kind of deal here, but all of those anglers that are concentrating shallow, talking about that they feel like today could be the day where another wave will push up shallow.
Yeah. Remember, 12, 1 o'clock. That's when we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Those that weren't watching, 12 or 1 o'clock is the time frame when guys seem like the new fish move up and they start seeing them. The board will change later in the day. We've got high skies, sunny skies, perfect for sight fishing. Just a perfect day for them.
All right, guys that fish this lake all the time. Such, I'd love to get some hashtag Bassmaster Classic feedback on this.
Let's make everybody aware that we have on hand here, as we have had yesterday, as we have had all year in the Bassmaster Elite Series, our pros back here, our intrepid reporters, the Such, Mike Sukon, and Ron Moore.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm just stuck. I'm still embarrassed for that guy who threw out that first pitch last night.
Oh, wow. Please.
Is that how he
came out of the box with that?
That's what you come out with?
That's what you've been thinking about all night?
Put Such out there next year.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. Hey, how about today?
Today.
Big guy. Give me a ball. Give me 10 minutes.
Such, I was busy working. What happened on this first pitch situation you're speaking?
I showed you. You know what happened.
Give you 10 minutes.
Just a bit outside.
Give you 10 minutes, you'd be fine. Did you see them give me 10 minutes?
No. You didn't get a warm-up, did you?
No.
That's it.
They didn't even turn the lights on in the place. You don't realize how dark it is over there.
Good to see home plate. Big Chris Lane.
To me, the prospect.
He was wearing black.
If you want to throw out the first pitch in front of a big crowd anywhere, that's like telling me, would you like to fight a dragon live on TV?
Yes.
Times Square.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pressure.
Go practice 10 minutes.
Yeah. Lose.
Davey, was it when you and you were the one honored with throwing out the first pitch? I asked you this after you did it. I'd like everybody that's watching on Bassmaster Live right now, looking at Clifford Perch down near the face of the dam. I'd like you to grade yourself, because you're an honest man with integrity. I'd like you to grade your own pitch yesterday.
Well, let me back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
I talked about winning the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, we're going to get to take a look at it from yesterday.
Okay. Can I talk while?
All right.
Can I try to be
take
distracted?
us through this.
Oh, gosh.
You can take us through this. Instead of talking us through a catch, you're going to talk us through a pitch.
Just like winning the Bassmaster Classic.
Don't shake off Chris Lane.
Everything you could dream of. Do you notice how dark it is? Chris is wearing black, and there's certainly none there.
Shakes it off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, shaking off the signals.
Make some noise for him, ladies and gentlemen.
And then he tells me fastball.
What is? Oh, my God.
Just a bit
It was like 50 Cent.
No, it was better than 50 Cent.
It was better than 50 Cent. Come on.
It was at least 60 Cent.
Hey, you had some heat on it, Davey. You had some heat on it.
Yeah, that was the whole problem. I tried to put too much heat on.
Hey, hats off to you. Bring it or don't even get up there. Come on.
I brought it, but he had to go back and get it because it wasn't close.
That's
Jerry McKinnis
there
did
we
this.
go.
That was better.
That was a lot better.
Not much.
Can I ask you, and I'm not going to call Chris Lane, he's not a lynx. He's not like a mountain cat.
No, wait. God, everybody's taking it.
The big cat.
Do you blame any of that on his?
Well, now I'm going to answer your original question. On a scale of 1 to 10, being an honest guy, if you're a forgiving judge, a 1. A 1. It was terrible. It was truly terrible.
Edwin Evers is on the board already.
I showed you the look my wife gave me, didn't I?
Please.
Yeah.
My biggest supporter. I mean, she's seen me win the Classic, but she's seen me really stink it up a lot more times than I've won. And she's in the dugout, like the only person in the dugout. My biggest supporter, so I'm thinking, get back to the dugout. She's going to give you a hug and say, it's okay, honey. She goes,
oh, no words.
Okay, we got to get a shot of that.
A look and then
we got to get back around to that because I saw it yesterday. That is the best part of the whole story right there. We got to see that look.
She gave me a 1.5, I think.
Guys, I'm glad to be with you guys today. We saw it yesterday. Edwin Evers started off quick with a shad spawn deal, caught a couple fish quick. He caught the first keeper of day 2 as well, so Edwin Evers looking to try to get off to a fast start again.
Double backs, Clifford Perch. Like we said, there's going to be a lot of diversity on how these guys are fishing. Got one offshore fisherman on your left. Brent Ehrler said, what I got is what I've got, and I'll pretty much live shallow the entire day.
Brett's a awesome fisherman, whether he's fishing shallow or deep. The one thing that jumped out at me when I'm looking at those guys, Clifford Perch got a bait caster in his hand. You asked him yesterday, because we never saw him with that. He had a spinning rod. He's known to drop shot, finesse fish, a Western angler, has to do that a lot, catches a lot of fish doing it. He's got a bait caster in his hand. He told us yesterday he was doing that a little. He's coming out after the big dogs this morning.
And where he's fishing at, Iaconelli was just around. I don't know if Iaconelli's there now, but
I bet he is.
Iaconelli said, on the face of this dam, that first 90 minutes, you can catch there is a huge population of fish that just live there just for the simple fact, if you looked at your screen, if you looked at your graph, just how much bait lives in that area right now. I mean, literally, your graph is blacked out.
A few tournaments also put in and take out near that spot as well, which it contributes.
And when we talked to him yesterday, he not only bait, he said there's just all game fish, just lots of fish of all kinds that are living around that dam area. I'd be curious to know if we get a shot. Brett was anxious about how many boats would follow him because he really was nervous about that. He thought that they could just ruin his area because he needs to ease around, let those fish set up, and give them time to rest between passes through there. It does. We haven't seen any. It looks like he might have it, not to himself, but just a few boats he can manage.
I just want you to think, if you look at that brush right there, that's how he caught that almost 10-pounder yesterday. Could you imagine, see that camera shot right there? Could you imagine pitching in that brush and catching a 10-pounder in the Bassmaster Classic?
Awesome. Just awesome.
I was trying to visualize the kind of brush he was, and Matt Herron too. That's what they were talking about? Is that the brush they were talking about right there?
Got one there. He described it as sticks. It's
yeah,
definitely sticks.
Bigger vines, but didn't get grown way out. Yeah.
Yep. Looks like that's a
number 1 of the morning.
16-inch limit, guys.
Even if you're leading the Bassmaster Classic,
that's huge.
That's huge. Put that first fish in the live well. Had to measure it. It doesn't matter. Hopefully that's not one of the ones he's going to weigh in, but that means a lot. I don't care if you're leading and you've been there and done that or not. It means a lot to get that first one in the live well.
16-inch size limit, Brent Ehrler. So he's pretty much flipping a creature bait. That's really all I kind of want to talk about yesterday. Get a little bit more of that. And the other side of Ehrler's deal was, he said, if you could let these stretches of, like you said, sticks, not even brush, he said, if you could let them rest, and he kept using the word, let them rest and be quiet.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
He watched 2 anglers fish a stretch of brush like this yesterday. Watched 2 anglers fish it, never catch a fish. He let it rest for 20 minutes where nobody touched it. Ehrler went through there and caught 4 of his bigger bites yesterday, just after 2 anglers went through it.
Yeah. He said they have to have a prescribed amount of time to get set up before they'll even open their mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got a story about that. When Brett was talking about that yesterday, this tournament came to mind. He's exactly right. I was fishing a B.A.S.S tournament, caught a really big bag the first day, was in an area, didn't go there until 1 o'clock or so. Nobody was around, and I went in there and caught like 25 pounds. Nobody around, set up good, made another pass or 2, nothing. Went to another place, came back, caught another fish or 2, and I thought the same thing. These fish need to set up. The next day, the guy was probably there the first day, and we just weren't there at the same time. There was another angler in there, and he was real anxious, I'm going to say, going around really fast with a trolling motor. He or I, neither one could catch anything. I finally caught like 1, but it was a 6-pounder. At noon, I knew that we weren't going to catch them if we kept making circles and not letting those fish set up, just like what Brett said. So I thought, how am I going to get him to calm down or leave? I couldn't think of anything for a long time, and I finally said, hey, these fish
Who is
need
this
to set
angler
up.
you speak of?
Rick Morris.
Oh, yeah, Virginia.
Yep.
RPM.
Long time ago. Yep. RPM for a reason.
There you go.
And I didn't want to tell him the whole deal because he's a competitor. But I said, we're moving around in here too much, because he wanted to catch him before I did. And I said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll leave this for an hour, and you have it. Keep in mind, I wanted him to have the hour that hadn't been rested. I'll get back with it. This is a cool story. Okay, real quick. I said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll leave from 1 hour. I left at 12, and he said, okay, you going to let me have it? I said, I'll let you have it for an hour if you'll let me have it for an hour. He said, okay, good. I came back at 1. I said, okay, here's the deal. You catch much? No, I hadn't caught anything. I said, well, it's my hour. I didn't even fish the area for the next 30 minutes to let him rest. Then went in, caught 18 pounds.
That is sneaky.
Those fish.
That
fish.
Sneaky.
I never told him the rest of the story,
no
by the
whammy,
way. I
no
hope he's
whammy,
not
no
watching.
whammy. Stop. Good.
I hope he's not watching.
Totally relates to what we're looking to with our leader, Brent Ehrler. Great to see pictures of him today. Great to have all our other assets out on the water, including our own Robbie Floyd. Bob Floyd, is that what you call him now?
I call him Bob Floyd.
Yeah, Bob Floyd. Okay, Robbie Floyd out there on the water. Robbie, what are you watching, and where are you going today? Bob?
I've been called a lot worse, and I get to pick where I want to follow. You know, usually there's 5-6 guys that have a dedicated camera to them, and I find who's hot or who I think will be hot early on. But the one thing I question is a guy that's around that top 10 or not necessarily has a camera on him or just out that top 10 is Matt Herron. And he said he really didn't catch them earlier. And he was one of the favorites coming into here. He doesn't have a camera boat until I get there. But I have to make that decision. He said he was a little surprised that it wasn't a little bit better yesterday early on, but things picked up later on in the day. But you talk about the area that he's in, and it's way up north. And when I got there yesterday and saw other guys like Cliff Crochet, I saw Brent Ehrler, I saw Brett Height, I saw Aaron Martins, I saw Kennedy. There's a lot of people, a lot of big-name fishermen that are in a certain area way up north. So I've got all this lake to choose. Do I stay down here and maybe catch some of these early guys, or do I go and try and find somebody that can come around that 10 bubble and make their way up? So I'm picking Herron. Is there anybody you want me to go follow today?
I don't know. We'll think about that. Robbie, let me ask you a question, though. You're a Texan. You're from right up the road. Big D, the Metroplex there. And we got Texans in this field. Keith Combs had a lot of trouble on the first day. This is the first time we've ever had a classic fully within the state of Texas. I want you to think about it, handicap it, who you think is going to be the top finishing Texan in this tournament, and maybe spend a little time with that person today.
Top. Oh, that would be a good shot. And you know, I talked to Alton Jones Jr. too. And I mean, will he be the guy in his first year of the Bassmaster Classic? And I know we've done stuff with him, but I mean, think about this kid. I remember when I first came to Bass in about 2001, 2002, he was literally just a small boy. But I think that young man or that adult now has such an advantage over all these anglers that are out there on the water. A lot of people have followed on ESPN and watched all the TV shows, but Alton Jones Jr. grew up in it. Day in, day out, every single day of the week, he was enthralled with bass fishing. And even Alton told me himself that after he did his homeschool work, he would sit out there and be in Aaron Martin's boat till 10, 11 o'clock at night while Aaron's tying up stuff. And you and I both know if you're sitting in the boat with Aaron Martin's at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, you've really got to have a good processor on you, because he's going to throw stuff at you that you probably have never heard before. So if he's picking up on little things like that and just taking it all in, even though he's a rookie, I still think Alton Jones Jr. could possibly be the top finishing Texan.
All right, great. That's good stuff.
It is, but Robbie, you asked for a vote of who you might go watch. The first Texan that I see, we don't have a camera on, Alton Jones. His dad is in 9th place. I think you better keep an eye on him. He's one of the guys for sure. Well, and I did go out pre-fishing with Alton, or it's actually the official day of practice, and I went out with him, and he was looking around a lot. And you know, you can talk as anglers among each other, and AJ gave him a call later on in the day and said, hey, look at this one particular thing. And if I do go to Alton, I'll go ahead and let you in on what that one particular thing is. But Alton Jr. is the one that set him on one thing, because we were, you know, going around flipping stuff trying to find that bite, and it had a few bites on, and this is that official practice day, which would be Wednesday. But when Alton Jr. called him, it gave him a hint into something, and that was the something that he'd really been waiting for. So that may be another one. I may go find Alton as well. And I think you may be onto something there, and father and son talking to each other, and really, that's the first time you could have a partner that you know that they're going to give you 100% of their information. Alton's not going to hold back from Alton Jr. and likewise.
Hey, Robbie, real fast, when you were out with Alton Jones on Wednesday, a lot of guys were talking about the wave of spawners that came up shallow midday, and there was a lot of fish that came up and locked on. Was Alton Jones one of those anglers that was doing that, or at least looking for that?
Maybe that was the call, Zona. That might have been exactly the call. And I don't think he was the only one.
No whammy.
But yeah,
stop.
during that day, it wasn't working out. And then he gets the call, and then now we change our program, and now we look. But yesterday really didn't kind of set up for that unless you're fishing it blindly, because a lot of those areas might have been beat up. And that's the one thing today. I'm looking at it. The sun's out. There's very few clouds in the sky, very little wind. I think that a lot of those bass that were moving up then, you're really going to have a push today, as long as the recreational stuff that really doesn't mess with it too bad. But yeah, and you've talked about it, the fish that are at so many different levels, but everybody knows if you can find that really skinny level and let them see where those bass are, and the water being a little clearer or higher sun, yeah, we could see big swings in weight today.
Robbie, thanks so much. We'll be with you all day long. We're going to try to get to you in the hours that are going to be the really action-packed ones and the time when it's slow as well. Robbie Floyd, great asset to have out there on the water. And that's right, the father-son dynamic. I mean, that's something that everybody thanks, Robbie. Everyone is watching. You can't not watch that because that's just a natural attractant to any sports type.
It really is. I can't imagine. I've got 2 sons of my own. I can't imagine having a son there with you fishing the Bassmaster Classic.
No doubt. We actually, talked about this yesterday. If you look at some of the father and sons that were in the Classic, I mean, gosh, I remember, back watching these guys when I was a kid, and I made this comment yesterday. You kind of take it for granted when you're not a father, but when you are a father and you look at that, you think about that dynamic, being able to practice, not just in a Tuesday night derby or a regional wildcat tournament, but the Bassmaster Classic.
The other thing I want to mention, I can't imagine having one of my sons fishing the Bassmaster Classic. Guido Hibden watching his son win the Bassmaster Classic just like he had done. Incredible.
Berkeley.
Back out on the water. Cliff Perch and Brett Ehrler.
Did Cliff catch one? I looked up at the camera a few minutes ago.
He put one in the box, did he not?
Yeah.
We'll have a look back at that. We did sort of talk over that a little bit. It wasn't a giant fish, but, man, every one's important. Every fish counts. Cliff Perch, our last big appearance on Bassmaster Live. Lake Havasu year before last when he was right there at the very end. Got nosed out by Aaron Martins.
I don't know what he's throwing. I'm going to guess he's throwing a jig, guys, because of the rod set up. I haven't seen the bait itself. It's really, really interesting to watch the way he's fishing that jig. He's hopping that jig up, trying to get a reaction bite. He got one there, too. But instead of dragging it along like a lot of guys are doing a Carolina rig,
feel real big.
Instead of dragging it along like you would a Carolina rig, he's moving it slowly and then giving it that hop up to get those fish to react. Really interesting to watch him do that. And it is a jig. Yep. And when we talk about jigs now, you just don't say jigs because they got the swivel head, the wobble head, rugby head. Different companies make different ones. Those baits are designed to drag just like a Carolina rig. And that extra action, it's a jig, but it's a total different deal. That's a solid, regular, old school jig that you want to give a lot of action. When I fish a jig, no matter where I'm fishing, offshore or in sticks like Brett Ehrler is doing, I give it a lot of hopping action, a lot of action. But he's intentionally making that bait come up off the bottom to get a reaction bite. Those fish sitting just a foot or so off of the bottom and just reacting to those baits.
Again, that was moments ago with Clifford Perch. Looking at back to live double box. Ehrler with a non-keeper right there is. We looked at Iaconelli yesterday down by the dam, Carolina rig, and really, those guys were power fishing deep. You look at what he's doing, power fishing deep. But, and I want you to bring the viewer at home in this, why those guys seem to be, we saw quite a few fish catches yesterday from Clifford Perch out of Iaconelli's boat. Why those guys got more finessey as the day went on yesterday.
Yep. There's Ike, not far away from Clifford Perch. Yesterday morning they were close together. Not even attempting to capitalize on a shad spawn. Those guys are committed to those deeper fish and was able to talk to both of them yesterday. Both of them are relying on fish moving out, post-spawn, just getting out there. And you mentioned about the finesse fishing, different ways, power finesse, you might want to call it Carolina rig. But the interesting thing, the guys that fish deep, including Keith Combs, the guys that crankbaited and fish baits power fishing deep and not finesse fishing deep, didn't catch them very good. Those fish are, the bigger fish are moving out. Most of them are moving out because they just spawned like a day ago or last night. Literally just spawned. Tail still bloody, just spawned. They get out there, they're not ready to chase baits yet. But if they get a real easy meal, they do that. I try to relate things to people, and when women have babies just like Karen did not long ago. They're not ready to eat 10
So
minutes
blessed.
later.
So blessed.
It takes a little while.
So blessed.
Did you see the leaderboard? Edwin Evers has a 4.8, a 3.8, and his threes up to 11.
All right, here's a picture we've been having our fingers crossed,
Yes.
hoping to see. Cliff Crochet way up the lake, working on top.
Wow, that's what we wanted to see here.
Just a little chunk to start with.
I mean, he got it good.
Yeah, that's what you want to see when that frog is all the way in the back of the throat.
That fish is big and healthy, but it's only like a 16 1/4 inch fish. Nice healthy fish, man. We'll take him. Feels good to get that first bite. You start wondering how long it's gonna take to get it. Feels good to get that first one out of the way.
These guys like Cliff are going to have a different pond to fish on, so to speak, this morning and today than they did yesterday. The wind blowing from the south predominantly yesterday really affected these guys. We heard Brett Ehrler talk about it quite a bit, and so did Cliff. Today the wind's blowing out of north, looks great. Cliff said he wanted the calmer water so he could fish the frog, not just throw the frog.
And he also made he's throwing a black Spro bronze-eye frog. And he made that look. He caught 21.8, and he said the wind hurt him.
Yep.
And that he really felt. He described what he thought that calm water. Those fish are able to track that frog better, is what he kept saying in his interview.
Yep. He knows he's working that frog really hard. You see a lot of people fish a frog. Most of the time, it's move the frog just a little bit and then let it sit.
Up the river. And they got some canals behind us. So I think it holds residential fish. I think what we kind of got going on is some fish moving in and out, plus some residential fish, plus you got a little shad spawn going on. You can't really see it, but you see some. You can't see the whole bunch, but you see some little shad flicker around, and I think that got something to do with it. And another thing, one of the few grass, and I think that plays a part too. So I think it's because I think a combination of residential and fish coming ahead of the sun. If they come and go out, they're catching some residential fish.
Can't quite hear me. I'd be interested to know. He said yesterday he stopped on the way to his destination up the river and caught one. He said that was the best feedback he had to get his day. I wonder if this is the stop on the way or if this is the final destination here. He caught one at that first stop.
I think it's probably this is a stop on his way because you see those houses and you see some seawalls. He said where he caught most of his fish, you had to go on a troll. You can't physically run there. So he probably stopped a little short again this morning. He's fishing so shallow that he has to work his way, maneuver his boat with his trolling motor.
Yeah, and he's got a flipping deal. What he said was way further upriver.
2 inches of water.
2 inches,
you
right.
can't see down through 2 inches of.
Looking at Bradley Roy on the right-hand side of your double box here. Bradley Roy mixing it up between a jig and a Carolina rig. A lot of the areas he said, this is really cool, gang, if you're just tuning into this, is one of the questions we asked him yesterday after weigh-in was how many other competitors are in your areas offshore, and he said none. He said, now don't get me wrong, he said a lot of guys fished through here throughout practice, but they fished too fast. He said, look, if you were cranking deep, if you were cranking offshore in practice, there's a pretty good chance you were going to fish through a lot of, almost all, if you look at all of our offshore anglers that had success, they were guys that were fishing slow.
Yep. Evers has his limit of 20 pounds.
Wow.
Look at the points, 38 pounds total.
That's the new elephant that has quietly slipped into the room as we take a look at our leaderboard right there.
Did that happen in the last 4 minutes?
In the last 4 minutes, Edwin Evers has caught 20 pounds of fish. Look at that massive 13-pound lead right now for Edwin Evers. Our defending champion is not going to go quietly away from the rest of the field here.
Floyd to get out there with
to Bob Floyd. Note to Bob Floyd, get on Edwin Evers. We'll be back with you in just a moment right here. The Geico Bassmaster Classic 2017.
Is there a place where the underwater images are the clearest you've ever seen? We're seeing every fish, we're seeing every detail of structure, and where every bottom contour was visible, where whatever you wanted to see below the surface was real. Do you want to go? Structure Scan 3D is the future of fishing. We can show you how to find fish faster and catch fish in a way you've never experienced. Let's get them.
Eat, sleep, fish. A motto all Skeeter owners live by, with 16 consecutive NMMA CSI Consumer Satisfaction Awards. Our competition doesn't even come close. Right now, buy Save Fish with up to $1,500 in instant rebates through March 31st, including the newly redesigned limited edition FX series. Visit us for all the details at the Expo Center, booth 1225.
Champions aren't born, they're created. Every turn of the prop, every mile on the lake, every cast of the rod, every fish they catch, and every pound they weigh. It builds who they are. It builds a legacy.
Now for your 2016 Bassmaster Angler of the Year!
If you're camping, fishing, hunting, or off-roading, we call it sea-pecking. In 1958, Dick Seepeck wrote the book. He was the creator of the original adventure tire. Dick Seepeck has a complete line of adventure tires and wheels. As the originator, Dick Seepeck knows what you need. Tires engineered for adventure, traction, reliability, and durability. If you're camping, fishing, hunting, or off-roading, oh yeah, you're sea-pecking now. Dick Seepeck tires, proudly made in the good old USA.
Facts matter. All monofilament is not the same. Berkley is the strongest, smoothest, most dependable monofilament line in the world. Why would you risk your fishing trip to a line that's made who knows where just to save a buck? Berkley has been making and perfecting trilene in America for over 75 years. I spool nothing less than the best. That's Berkley trilene, and that is a fact.
It's the 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, being brought to you live by Berkley.
World Championship of Fishing, and this is day number 2 of this 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic. Very, very important weigh-in coming up for these guys. Job 1 is make it into the top 25. That's the only way you'll get to day number 3 of the Classic. We have it coming to you from Minute Maid Park, the home of the Astros, right in the middle of downtown Houston. 5:30 p.m. First fish hits the scales. That's the way we lay it out for you. It will be a thing of beauty. It's always an important component of the Classic, as we say, and just all the pageantry, all the excitement, all the fans getting together. A real reunion for the entire community of bass fishermen and bass fans in this country as we take you back out to Lake Conroe and up north, way up in this sort of different part of 2 lakes of Lake Conroe, this less populated place where I found our leader to start the day, Brent Ehrler, and that's where we find him still.
On the cover.
Davey, looking at Ehrler right there, and a lot of the guys that were flipping, whether it was Cliff Crochet, Matt Herron, Ashama Monroe, talk about this time of year, why these guys are using either a 5/16 or less. A lot of them using extremely light weights, all the way down to an 1/8 ounce. Why that's so critical this time of year.
And that's a great thing to talk about, a great question. It's so important to learn, I like to say, let the fish tell you what they want. And this time of year, if you're targeting spawning fish and they're really locked on, I want a heavy sinker on a flipping bait or a heavy jig because I want to go to the bottom. Learning if the fish are on the bottom or if they're suspended around this cover is the most critical thing, in my opinion. Because if those fish are suspended, then a lighter bait, a lighter creature bait like a lot of them are using, or a lighter jig is more effective. If they're on the bottom, there's two things that are really, really important. Number one, if they're on the bottom and you're trying to use a light bait, most often the bait will never even get to the bottom because of all these sticks, as Brett called them, or whether it's grass, any type of cover. So you've got to get that bait to the bottom. The guys that told us what size sinker or what size jig they were using, some guys didn't want us to know for obvious reasons. But I think what's going on up there, a lot of these fish have just spawned, and the lighter bait is more intriguing. It's a painfully slow way to present that creature bait, but it's what you have to do to get that bite.
And for somebody at home watching this, these guys that are, I mean, you're talking 20, 25-pound line or braid with real light weights on their side. It seemed, talking to every one of the anglers that caught them fishing this way, caught them flipping yesterday, yeah, they're using creature baits, and of course the bait's important, but it seemed like the weight was the most critical.
It is. Whether you're talking about the guys fishing offshore or the guys flipping, it's all relative. It's easier to fish offshore throwing a deep diving crankbait, reeling it fast. You're going to cover more water, and if those fish are aggressive, that's what you need to do. The same scenario with flipping. It's a lot easier to go down through those sticks with a 1 ounce jig or a 1 ounce sinker on a creature bait. You're covering more water, and if those fish will bite and react to that, you need to be doing that. The guys that figure things out, watch Brett Ehrler. When I see how he's fishing, I know what weight jig and what weight creature bait he's using. I can tell the way he's fishing what's happening there. You need to be able to notice that.
Yeah.
When you just see what he's doing, he's dialed in. There's other guys up there flipping that didn't catch him very well. They weren't dialed in like that.
Not necessarily. The ones who want light, not all of them want small. That's
right.
They like a big, I mean, Cliff Perch was saying, I like my jig because it's light and big.
That's a great point, Tommy. Not necessarily small, but light.
Light, that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's so interesting whether we're talking about 18 feet or 18 inches. See the guys doing the same thing that are catching them. Other than Edwin Evers, he has smacked them on the shad spawn the last 2 mornings. I hope we can get Robbie Floyd with him this morning.
Bob Floyd, looking at Cliff Crochet locked up live.
The con.
Good.
Oh, man.
That's the kind we want.
Oh, yes, that's the shot we want for sure. And it just locked up momentarily and still a little jittery for us. It's going to settle down.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I hope we can hear him because this is going to be good stuff. It's a big one.
Throwing a Spro frog. And gang, I want you to look in the right-hand corner real fast as we're locked up here, and apologize for that as soon as we get him in a clear shot. But I want you to look in the right-hand corner. If you look in your upper right-hand corner, you see that little patch of grass? That has been the key for Cliff Crochet.
Yeah.
He's just not aimlessly going around on these flats and throwing a frog. He's looking for, and we asked him, is it water willow? What? He goes, I don't know what it is. It's not a grass that I've fished before. And he lives near here. He said, but I've got about 3 key stretches of that grass. And the other side, Davey, I'm going to throw it to you on this. are these fish that are moving through here out of these canals, or are these fish that you think are locked on? Because where that grass is, you're going to have a harder bottom.
You are. There's several things going on where that grass is at. Some of those fish are spawning, I believe, but the water's really dirty. You can't tell just looking because of the low light right now, but we talked to those guys that are up there. That water's dirty, especially Cliff said, it's really dirty. The grass filters the water. The water's going to be a little bit cleaner around that vegetation, which makes the fish want to live around it. Some harder bottom there, like you mentioned, makes the fish want to spawn around it. So several reasons those fish want to be, and the bait wants to be there for the same reason.
He did. He even made the comment he thought that there was an actual a small shad spawn in that grass for an hour yesterday morning.
One thing that I have been asked my whole career when I'm doing seminars throughout the country or what have you, boat shows, what do you look for on a new body of water? And if not the first thing, certainly the first or second thing I look for is the best available cover. And to me, the best available cover, if it's in the body of water or around where you're fishing, is vegetation. Then it goes wood, rock, you go right on down the line. But my first choice is always vegetation.
Okay, so you're looking at a guy that had a phenomenal, there's the great shot of that grass right there. You're looking at a guy that had a phenomenal first day of the Classic. You know he's going to stick with this. He said, he goes, there might be a lot of guys that have way more experience than me in the top 10, but trust me, I'm not going to stray from what I am doing throughout this tournament. I will live with a flipping stick, and I will live with a frog. But you look at those patches of grass, they're not big patches.
That's what concerned me. There's not a lot of it. It really concerns me that he may run out of good areas or fish. The thing that I'm encouraged with, just like his first tournament at Cherokee Lake, he led that first event, just didn't have enough, just wasn't a big enough area. If Cliff Crochet keeps fishing his strengths, he's going to have enough. Eventually, he's going to
one of these
get a pattern where
it's
not his fault that there's not more of that stuff for him to find. It wasn't his fault at Cherokee, but you got to fish your strengths. All of these guys that are really catching them, they have been incredibly patient.
I'm going to throw something out about Cliff Crochet that I'm going to relate to Dean Rojas.
Okay.
If you look on the Elite Series now, right now, next to Rojas and Ish Monroe, really Crochet, he's the frogger.
Yep.
Okay? This was years ago. I'm going to say this 10 years ago. I said to Dean Rojas, I said, you kind of own this. Yeah, guys kind of hodgepodge come in and out and throw a frog around with you and stuff like that. I said, when will somebody lock in and be the next Dean Rojas? He said, he's young right now, but he's watching this, and he'll be here one day. He's younger right now, but he'll be here one day. That's him.
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy. And what's funny about what you said is one of these tournaments, there's going to be enough. Could be this tournament.
Yep.
But one of these tournaments, there's going to be enough cover. There's going to be enough bass where Crochet wins. And that's the exact same thing that Rojas went through with a frog. He would always be in second, third, fourth, fifth, and he'd look at you and say, man, I just don't win with this dang thing. I'm always in the top 10. I just don't win till we got to Oneida.
Yep.
He was left alone. He had enough water, and he blew it away.
I talked about it early this morning. For some reason, that storm really got my attention when I saw the radar this morning before we came on live. And I was afraid it was going to affect these guys negatively, and it has most of the field except Edwin. But I will guarantee you, if the sun stays out, not many clouds, there's going to be some big fish caught from noon until way in. I will guarantee you.
That deck is slick. Number two.
Keeper number 2 for Ehrler. And as you say, Davey Hyde, not a big one, but that is big in other ways.
Yeah, you put a few in a live well, and don't forget, I caught a 9-pounder yesterday, almost 10.
Right.
Anything can happen.
His one fish yesterday would equal 5 of what we've seen him catch today.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen those 2 fish. He's had to measure them, but for the whole field as a whole yesterday, half the field caught a limit. 26 limits on day 1, 26 anglers without a limit. Only 2 anglers without a limit were in the top 20. We talked about them. James Elam and Jason Williamson had quality, just not quantity.
2. Got on that.
Yeah, 2 pounds. Can you say little? Keeper number 2, little. I'll take it, though.
You were saying we're going to idle?
Yeah, I want to get over there. There's one spot I want to fish. There's a guy really close to it. I kind of want to go cut him off. So he doesn't fish it, but...
I like the honesty right there.
No, yeah. Brutally honest.
Again, this former Rookie of the Year on the right there, Bradley Roy, also, as we mentioned, has the distinction of being the youngest ever to fish the Bassmaster Elite Series. Sort of a boy wonder. Hard to believe this is really hard to believe this is his first Classic. Really, when you think about it, he's been around a while now.
He has. I bet it won't be his last. You got to break the ice. Just like putting that first keeper in the boat. If you're leading the Bassmaster Classic, is awesome for him to be at this Classic.
And as young as he started, this has been a learn as you go along process.
Yep.
Yeah.
I talked with Bradley at Media Day and a month before the Classic about this, and he said he actually probably prefers getting in his first Classic his 8th year on tour because he's so accustomed to the routine and these guys. It's not starstruck first Classic. He's a veteran, he seems.
I'm going to be honest with you. It was just because I was poor, but I would have never been able to wait until my 8th year to make the Classic. I had to make it happen really quick or I was broke. I'd saved my whole life.
Point.
I had saved my whole life to have an 12-month to 18-month window. I'm just being honest.
That's what it was.
Yep. And there's so many guys like that, just like I was.
If you would not have made it in
done
2 years, done. Goodbye.
2, I'm telling you. 18 months at the most. My wife's an accountant, and I'm no dummy, but she is the accountant. I know how much money I had. It took me 10 years to have 12 months.
I have been around you, and I would agree with everything you just said.
So good for him.
All right, Brent, give us an update. Got 2 in the box early?
I got 2 right now. They're both little, but I don't mind. We got all day. There's a lot of fish in here to be caught. There's definitely a big 1 or 2 around, so let that sun get up. I think they'll start biting even better. I think these fish bite better in the afternoon anyway, so.
How does this compare to yesterday as far as catching them early?
Yesterday, it took me a good little bit. I had one little flurry where I caught them, and I didn't have, I caught one, and then a little bit later I caught another one, and about 9:30 or 10 o'clock I caught 3 in a row really fast. So I think it gets better. I think there's 2 windows. You have that 9 o'clock window, 10 o'clock window, and then I think you have like that 2 or 3 o'clock window. So
The big girl bite.
I had my big bite yesterday at about, it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock. And that was my second fish. I had a 3-pounder as my first fish, and then my second one was that big one. So,
is that the biggest fish you've weighed in a competition?
That was not the biggest fish I've weighed in a competition. In the TTBC, I had one almost 11 a couple of years ago. So, but believe me, that's a pretty big one. A 912 is a real big one. So, the right tournament for sure. Catch a 9-pounder in the Bassmaster Classic, man. That's
9 3/4. Don't shortchange yourself.
Yeah, 9 3/4 is a. People say game changer. A 9-pounder, almost a 10-pounder is a game changer for sure. All right, we got here. We're good. We're golden. Made it in here.
Well, you can see a lot more wind activity down near the dam today.
Need these guys to stay out here. There's a little pond back here. Yeah, when we get closer, I will, yeah.
If you notice, Brent was idling from one area to the other because it's just so shallow you can't even get the boat up on plane. And he just mentioned what I was thinking and thought I was probably right. When he moved from one area to the other, you look for just that little subtle difference in depth. And he mentioned that there's an old pond there, so there's deeper water, and typically around that deeper water where it first starts to fall off just a little bit deeper is where those fish will set up.
And lines of this brush that, and he was really vocal about this, lines of this brush that had been left alone for 30 minutes. That's one thing that he kept saying. He goes, if I looked at a line of brush and it had just been quiet for 15 to 20 minutes, I could go catch them.
Yep.
Everything he said and all these, many of these other guys said, gives you hope that there's going to be some giant bags, because every one of these guys said there are big ones moving around constantly everywhere. KVD comes up to the dam. He says there's 30 pounds within 15 feet either side of me right now.
If you looked at how healthy that gorilla he caught yesterday, is in your mind, is that a fish that's coming in, or I mean, that fish was so clean.
I think that fish had spawned quite a while ago.
Long time ago.
Because it wasn't pre-spawn.
Right.
It had either just spawned or a while back, but you hit the nail on the head. It was clean.
Clean.
Felt like it spawned a month ago. And still was 9-12.
Looking at Brent Ehrler right there. He talked to us about that big one yesterday and said he flipped over a limb. Okay? If you're at home watching this on Bassmaster Live, I want you to think about this.
9-pounder right back in here the other day.
Actually, if we can get Eric Kafka.
Good little spot right here, buddy.
We can get Eric Kafka to really talk to Ehrler about it.
2 or 3 bites back here, but it's nice and calm today. It's too dirty. Yeah, it's way too dirty to.
Well, there's been many a guarantee made that we'd see multiple 10-pounders. A guy could catch 10-pounder and not have big bass of the day. We haven't hit to that. We haven't gotten to that part yet, but we got darn close yesterday. This was Brent Ehrler.
There it is,
the
right
way
there.
Later on. Oh my gosh!
And he said he flipped over a limb and hit that fish, and fish was over a limb. And he said that literally, it jumped back over the limb towards him. He goes, It was unbelievable. He said if he would have went the other way, game over, done. Nope, no chance.
And look how he starts this one. Looking for 21 pounds, 9 ounces, 23 pounds, 3
A 9-12 and leading the Bassmaster Classic because the fish jumped over the limb towards you.
50-50.
What a difference.
Either way.
What a
If
difference
he'd have lost
one
it,
jump
he'd have been
makes.
that guy that, lost a 9 and 10 pounder. Oh, really?
We heard a few of those.
Yeah, we've seen that already this year, I think.
Fish is definitely postponed. 9-12. That's a monster.
We're going to
So a month ago, that's an 11.
Yeah.
Easy, huh?
They roll that train for home runs. I would say
But I'm sure he'd take it as a 9-12.
Oh, yeah. Don't want do-overs on that one.
You mentioned the wind. The wind's not blowing today compared to yesterday. 9-10 miles an hour to forecast. Yesterday, 25 to 30. But it's blowing from 180-degree different direction. Clifford Perch was in slick, calm water yesterday because he's right up against that dam. These guys on the north end are loving the change in wind direction. Struggling a lot more to just fish.
Right.
When you're watching those fish on your graph, like it looked like he was doing a lot yesterday and really trying to see how they're positioned and where they're positioned with the front of that boat going up and down makes it a lot tougher.
And if you're looking at Clifford Perch right there, we asked him, I said, we saw you cast in, caught, quite a few. I said, did you drop on any that you marked on the graph? And he looked at you and, yeah, did
he
that too.
He said yeah to everything when we asked him about catching fish. Yeah. The thing that was the funniest to me, but he was just being honest. How deep are you catching them? From 1 to 20.
Yeah.
All of it. I mean, he caught a lot of fish yesterday, and he didn't want to talk a lot about it. I understand that. I totally understand that. But we get to watch it today. That's a good thing. He doesn't have to talk about it. We hope he does some, but we get to watch it.
Of course, we didn't have the counter on him yesterday, but you got to think he's a little bit behind schedule because he talked about how many keepers he caught. He caught yesterday. He's right now standing a little bit behind schedule, but that doesn't mean a whole lot this early on.
No, a lot of his damage, a lot of Clifford Perch's damage yesterday, he said, is when a lot of the spectator boats, Ehrler hooked up right here.
It's a better one.
That's a good one.
Post spawn.
Post spawn.
Post spawn.
That's a good one right there. That's a nice one. I'd say that was a good move. That was a good move.
Solid fish right there for Brent Ehrler. Fish number 3. Everything's starting to happen for the guys fishing shallow that were said, Davey Height, to more than likely they burn their areas out the first day. It is not the case right now.
They didn't. Part of the reason they didn't, it was really tough on those guys to fish up there yesterday. I had no idea that it had affected that area as much as it did. But for Brent Ehrler to say it was as rough on that north end as it was St. Clair, for a guy that has lived on St. Clair, that means a lot.
Going to move away from Brent Ehrler, who started the day with the lead, but boy, has the lead been eclipsed right now by the one and only Edwin Evers, our defending champion, Robbie Floyd. Robbie Floyd is with him right now, right, Z? And he's ready to go.
Bob Floyd.
Bob Floyd. Sorry, Bob Floyd. Bob, take it away.
Evers right now, and our battery's going down, and we were heading up north, but when this guy catches 20 pounds in 20 minutes, you got to go find Edwin Evers. The defending champion of the Bassmaster Classic is on the move. I'd have him turn around, but he's going right into the sunlight. He's heading over to a different spot. But how is he catching them? He was throwing on these break walls. He did it in day one, but the wind has changed a little different, and I think it pushed some of that bait up there into those break walls a little bit more. So he catches 20 pounds in 20 minutes. He went back to back to back casts at catching a keeper. So we've seen him move up on the final day of the Bassmaster Classic. He moves up on day 2 as well.
Robbie's going through a giant flotilla. How many of those people just showed up, those folks who are now following him? Okay, we lost Robbie
Bob
for some
locked
reason.
up tighter than a drum
yeah,
right
we'll
there.
back to Bob later, I'm hoping.
Do you remember yesterday when Edwin said, every time when you guys want to come to me live, it's when I'm moving?
Yeah.
How ironic was that when we go to Robbie Floyd? He is
very
leaving.
fitting to be. You know what, Tommy?
before the horse.
Real quick, we have not been fed one time today, please.
I'm sorry, breakfast
Please?
time as
I
regards.
want to go CPECing.
Yeah, Dick CPEC Tires and Wheels Trivia, Bassmaster Classic Trivia, I should say. In what Houston industry would you conduct a maneuver called Texas Chicken? Oil well firefighting, shipping, barbecue restaurants, or space exploration? All big elements of the economy here in Houston, Texas.
Such, is this from you?
Oh, yeah,
Where do
you
you
got it.
Oh, you bet it is.
Where would you pull off your best Texas chicken? We'll find out when we come back. Work on that. That's our Geico Bassmaster Trivia. And we love Houston, too. Houston is awesome. Houston is more than a handful, I will tell you right now. Absolutely. Downtown Houston is our center for all our activities except for Lake Conroe, and we are loving it. Weigh-in coming up later today, but we got plenty more fishing yet to come.
The competition is fierce, and the prizes are huge. The only thing missing is you. Fantasy Fishing presented by Toyota. Sign up for free and face fans from across the nation. Grand prize winner receives a Triton Yamaha package, including a Triton 189 TRX. MSRP of $37,293. The Classic and each individual Elite Event winner will receive $2,500 Bass Pro Shops gift cards, with the runner-up receiving a GoPro Hero 4 Black camera. Sign up and pick your team today at BassmasterFantasy.com.
Yamaha VMAX SHO, the game changer. The pros knew right out of the first hole shot that the VMAX SHO was the real deal. VMAX SHO exceeds two-stroke performance, delivers four-stroke efficiency, and is packed with legendary Yamaha reliability. It's the faster, stronger, smarter, lighter family of VMAX SHO outboards from Yamaha.
If you love bass fishing, then show your support by joining B.A.S.S today. Since 1968, B.A.S.S has been serving bass fishing enthusiasts with information and tournament coverage that make you a better angler. When you sign up today, you'll join over 500,000 outdoorsmen who love bass fishing. With your membership, you'll receive every issue of Bassmaster magazine, plus $50 in free gear, including a membership tackle bag, B.A.S.S cap, plus more. Log on to Bassmaster.com to join Bass today.
Are you ready for this? Your 2016 Geico Bassmaster Classic champion, Edwin Ehrler. Grove, Oklahoma, I need you to get loud when I call these anglers out. These are the 55 best bass anglers in the universe. Oh, yeah, it's nice. Tennessee, how's everybody doing today? We are excited to get this season kicked off. It all starts here.
Barely hook, dude. Barely hook. Ooh, yes!
That's what I'm talking about. Stay down, stay down. Stay down, open your mouth, open your mouth. Yes. Thank you. Yeah! That's a big one. That's for you, Mama. How about that right there now? Woo! Ooh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Bassmaster Elite Series champion, Jacob Wheeler.
Bassmaster Elite second event for 2017 at legendary Lake Okeechobee. So much tradition here and so many amazing eye-popping results.
Yeah, buddy's right. Yes! Yes! Give me some high five on that. Yes.
Take a closer look at that one.
I never flipped a fish that big before, I don't think. Woo!
Almost 30 years ago, I fished my first Bassmaster tournament. Once you win one classic, you want another. Once you win Angler of the Year once, nothing satisfies anymore. I love the competition. I love that people are always gunning for me. I never would have guessed that I'd be the guy with the bullseye on my back, but I'm cool with that.
Toyota, let's go places.
Think you could win valuable prizes from Bassmaster? You can't know unless you enter, and entering is easy. Go to Bassmaster.com. Enter now for a chance to win a fishing trip with 2016 Toyota Bassmaster Angler of the Year Gerald Swindle. Trip includes airfare, rental car, hotel, and $500 cash, plus a Triton 17 TX bass boat, Mercury engine, and Gerald's gear from Humminbird, Minn Kota, GoPro, and more. You, the winner of a valuable prize? Could be. All you have to do to get your shot is go to Bassmaster.com and enter today and every day. Hey, it could be you.
Let us make this absolutely clear. The days of wasted casts and missed opportunities are over. New Mega Imaging takes fishing into the megahertz range for the first time, because higher frequency sonar means higher frequency of this. Without a doubt, it's the most detailed picture of the world below ever. And it's only from Humminbird.
That's awesome. That's so cool. It's a game changer.
This thing steers just as easy in the thick stuff as it does out there in the open water.
It's much quieter. It's more responsive.
Hit one button and you're locked down.
It's holding us right in place. It's anchoring us right here.
That new spot lock is dead on.
You know, the only fighting you have to worry about is fighting the fish now.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's the 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, being brought to you live by Berkeley.
Geico Bassmaster Classic. This is day 2. We are right in the thick of it. Everybody fighting for their lives. These 52 anglers trying to make it at least among the top 25 so they can fish on the final day. And, of course, the final day tomorrow. We got a whole 6-hour load of Bassmaster Live to drop on you for sure. We're going to start at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. 3 hours, take a short break, and be back to wrap it up and get you very close to weigh-in time. Of course, tomorrow is the all-important weigh-in. That's when we crown our champion there at Minute Maid Park.
Hey, I think one thing that we better start keeping our eyes on for tomorrow, Ron Moore, is exactly how fast things can change on a leaderboard on this lake right now.
Oh my gosh, and who knows, they may not have got into the heavy action. Hey, our Dick CPAC Tires and Wheels trivia, we had a good one, a stumper, I think, for a lot of people. In what Houston industry would you conduct a maneuver called the Texas Chicken? Would it be oil well firefighting, Red Adair style? Would it be shipping?
What was that?
Barbecue restaurants or space exploration? You don't know Red Adair? Come on, man.
Yes,
Houston,
of course I do.
Houston legend. Are you kidding me?
I met Red Adair.
Did you? That's right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
sure did, Suits. You used to live here. Z, why don't you give your best guess?
You know, I was going to go. I thought it was a color of a redfish bait, but that's electric chicken.
Electric
for
chicken,
all of our
that's right.
redfish
That's right.
fans out there.
Yep.
Such like that one. I am going to go with A.
I'm with you.
I'm going with A.
I'm saying.
Oil well firefighting.
We're going all in Red Adair on that
Gerald
one.
McInnes is sitting next to
we're
me close.
so wrong.
Jerry said shipping the whole time.
Jerry said shipping and got it right. Such, explain that one for us.
When two boats are passing each other in the Houston Ship Channel, they go directly at each other and they veer off in the opposite direction, so their wakes will keep them apart from hitting.
Such, I don't know if you watch Cheers, but you're turning into Cliff Clavin.
Yeah,
you really are.
No, that is
I'm
Floyd.
not
That
gonna lie.
pant's still young.
Yeah, you got your Texas chicken there. I think you need to be aware of that as we head on into the day. Thank you, Such. That was great. Texas chicken. So it's like a hot rod, like old hot rod race movies from the 50s where they play chicken. I got you. That's a good one. I like that. Let's get back out to our guy who started the day with the lead. Man, totally eclipsed right now by Edwin Ehrler, but Brett Ehrler's got a lot of water yet to cover.
Brent Ehrler, live. 3 in the live. Well, one
I'm
good
sorry.
one.
I didn't know he was there.
They called that last one 3.5.
Fair.
Pretty
A little
close.
bit heavier, but that's fair. Wow.
I'll take that one too.
A little bonus bladed jig bite right there.
Nice.
I saw him out there nipping on a piece of bait.
He's actually ahead of schedule, other than the one big fish he caught
Way
early.
ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the one he caught yesterday at 8:30 weighed more than the 4 that he is in the live.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear what Ehrler said? He said he saw that fish chasing some bait, and then he decided to pick that up.
Dude is scary good, man. He is scary. I've spent a lot of time in the boat with that guy, and he's one of those anglers. And look, he has the credentials and accolades and the money to go with it. Whether it's what he's already done on the Bassmaster Tour, I mean, what a wonderful Rookie of the Year champion he's been.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What he did on the FLW Tour, if you look at Brent Ehrler's whole game,
Yep.
there is no holes, Davey.
It's not, and when you're on top of your game, like Ronnie just mentioned, he's been catching his fish flipping, but Ronnie mentioned that he heard him say he just saw bait move a little, so he instinctively knew, pick up a bait that he didn't catch many on yesterday, throw out there and catch his biggest fish of the day. But look.
Good one. Oh, I feel so good. You have no idea. Oh my goodness. It's a limit, buddy.
Wow.
Take a look, man. Fast as happen. How
man.
fast does it happen?
And I'm going to tell you something. Looking at the replay right there, Brent Ehrler's fish number 5 of the morning. A horrible practice. If you talked to the leader of the Bassmaster Classic, catching over 20 pounds yesterday, he was terrified.
He was.
Not nervous terrified. He was nervous. Was there more fish left in here for him?
Wow. The best thing that happened to those guys yesterday, and this is going to sound weird when I first start saying it, is the wind. Because I truly think it helped them. Because the place didn't get fished out yesterday. Now today it might. But the wind kept those fish moving around, and he was one of the fortunate ones, obviously the most fortunate, to be leading the tournament. But he survived the toughest day. And now I think these guys, he could have just as big a bag or bigger today. He's ahead of schedule. But then the field's cut in half for him on Sunday.
You know, it's early right now. Feels great to have a limit right now. The conditions change, you get bad for some reason. I'm good. I like that we have all day. I have 2 little ones that I need to get rid of. And I get rid of those, then I'm gonna have a really good, great bag. It won't be 20, but it'll be a great bag to back up what I had yesterday. And I might catch 20, but that's what I'm shooting for at least. I saw a fish push in the back of the sticks there that was, I couldn't reach it. Just sitting there, look, this fish I can't reach, and then I pitched to where I can reach one and catch a nice one. There's so much water through there that it's hard to get to all of them. And that one I just caught was way back there.
I'm going to tell you, there's some old Texas hands that are watching this style of fishing going, yeah, this is what I wanted to see.
I want to see the Buckbrush Massacre.
I'll be honest with you, there's old South Carolina hand that's liking what he sees right now.
That's awesome.
But you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I love seeing this. But a cool thing that we were talking about right when he just wham, wham, caught those fish, this is a guy that's on top of his game. He's been asked by me, by you, by Tommy, and 100 other people, I'm sure, are you sight fishing? Because he's good at that.
Right.
He's not sight fishing because the water's too dirty, but he caught both of those fish right there sight fishing.
Right.
He saw a shad flicker,
movement,
picked up a blade jig, caught it, and then that fish was way back in the brush, and I thought, I didn't think he was fishing quite that far back, but he just told us he saw a stick move and pitched it and caught that fish. That's when you're on top of your game, you're alert to everything that's going on around you. You have to be the win the Bassmaster Classic.
And you're dealing with, if you look at Ehrler's career, it's been flawless. And we basically, back in the day, we started fishing about the same time. And I can tell you something about him is he's had a very fortunate career up till last year, where he called last year what it basically just pissed him off, is what he said. He said he was never in contention of winning. He barely made this classic. If you look back to Mille Lacs, he was a disaster going into that mentally. He's like, I don't know what my deal is. And he got traction there. You could see the footage, when we covered him on the north end of Mille Lacs. And it's almost like that ball got rolling there, if that makes sense, just because it was just highs and lows. And you have to put that all in perspective. A guy that makes the Classic saying, I just had a horrible year last year. But for his career, it was.
In 23 years out here, I've seen a few cool things. I can honestly say one of the coolest things, one of the things that made me so proud once again to be a part of this sport, is when he cried when he caught the fish at Mille Lacs that he knew he was going to make the Bassmaster Classic.
No doubt.
That's not a rookie crying, even though they try to put it. This is a guy that's done an incredible amount of great things.
Explain that to the people at home, what happened there.
Brett Ehrler was on the bubble to make the Classic and was struggling a little bit in the tournament. Then he got a little momentum, and he caught a 6. It was a monster smallmouth that he knew. And we know as fishermen on the last day or two of the season what we need to be able to accomplish, whether you're trying to win, whether you're trying to make the Classic, win AOY, whatever it might be. We know. All of our wives have accountants at different levels, and we kind of carry that on. But we know, and he knew he needed one big fish to secure his spot in the Bassmaster Classic. Keep in mind, this is not a rookie. A guy that's dreamed of making
Guy's won millions.
Yes, millions. He's literally won millions already. He catches this 6-pounder and literally cries tears of joy for qualifying for a Bassmaster Classic.
And apologized that he was crying.
Yes, yeah. Awesome. Just awesome stuff.
He had to make it all happen from Potomac on. Well past the half. He had nothing.
Absolutely.
He had nothing coming into Potomac and made it all happen.
And what was
today.
weird was if you really looked at Ehrler's year last year, it was just up and down and up and down. And I'm going to tell you, he's one of the – if you talk to Brent Ehrler, you kind of do I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but I've told him this. I've talked to you about this, Tommy. I'm like, why are you not a surgeon? Why are you not an engineer? Yeah. You know what I mean?
He looks like one today. Those 2 moves he just made look surgical. They really did.
But if you talk to him about fishing, he is so incredibly smart. You know, there's nothing sloppy. It's precise, and it's Aaron in a different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in a different rain suit.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is his whole game. Okay, I can tell you that Aaron is thought of as the best deep water fish. Look, man, that guy right there is every bit of that fishing with a sonar. I've seen it.
Just lock her down right there.
Here's something that worried me about the guys fishing slow that caught him yesterday. Not a lot of bites. And when you're fishing slow, I asked Iaconelli about this when we talked. What do you do when you're relying on 1 bite an hour or every hour and a half and you don't get that one?
In a Classic.
You speed up.
Right.
Which is the wrong thing to do.
Right.
All right. Brent Ehrler started with the lead today. You see, if you look at the unofficial scoreboard, what has happened to that lead. And now he's climbed back up within a pound, a little closer than a pound, to Edwin Evers. But Edwin Evers definitely the big-time move on the start of this day. Our Triton on the line is Robbie Floyd right now. Bob Floyd, what is it now? Have you caught up to him? Is he going to stay put for you for a second or two?
Yeah, I'm with Edwin Evers now, and you can see over my left shoulder, he's changed things up. He put down the spinnerbait. Now he's looking for sight fish. So, you know, you talk to those guys, and I talked to those guys before the tournament started, and those guys that were on that shad spawn, there were the guys that were and then weren't. Some didn't want to waste their time with it. Other guys said, man, if I could just get that confidence of getting 15 pounds in my live well, I can go out there and catch big fish. And I think that's Edwin's approach, except instead of catching 15 today, he catches 20. And you never know, that could be a 21-pound bag in that live well when he catches back-to-back-to-back cast. And it looks like now's the time. The sun's gotten high, and he must have some fish marked or know that they were there previous in the week, because he's been looking at a few of them in there, and it's definitely went to the sight fishing approach. But, you know, when you catch 20 pounds and that's your early morning bite, you can go and swing for the fences, as they always seem to say.
Hey, Bob, real quick, it appears that you guys are in Walden Marina, exactly where Iaconelli was at in the mouth of it. We talked about it yesterday. Is Edwin the only one that's in that marina? Because it did receive a lot of traffic yesterday. Guys like Jacob Proskik, obviously Mike Iaconelli, but there was just a lot of traffic that went in and out of there all day long.
I don't know exactly where Ike was in the marina, but yes, we are in Walden Marina. It looks like if he was there near these boat docks, it's the same spot. I saw one guy fishing in the boat docks themselves, but yeah, up in the shallow water areas, he's the only one fishing. You see a couple of fans, they get a bird's eye view, but as in sight fishing, you know, you got to be very, very quiet. I want my cameraman, Tom, I want you to look around to the right, maybe hard into the sun, But look at all the people that are starting to follow Edwin Evers now. As soon as you get that 20-pound, and we got one on right now, so let's see. He's got one. Let's see if it's a good keeper or not. He's still taking his time, and again, looks like he's light lining it. And my cameraman's going to hop in his boat as soon as I get through talking to you guys. Let's see what it is and if it will help at all. It's a chunk. I'm not sure if it'll help. Depends on what's in the bag. But, yeah. Will it help you, Edwin? And then I asked this question. I asked if it would help him. He said, I don't know. So that just tells you what kind of fish he's been catching this morning. And yeah, that looked like to be a female. And again, if Ike was in here, Edwin's in here, and if they think those fish are starting to move on. But that's just one spot. Oh, now actually look to my left. Jacob Proskik. Didn't even see him sneak in there. The Livingston boat is just to the left, and it looks like he might be doing the same thing. He's got the peepers out as well.
Real quick there, Bob, if looking at Edwin Evers, where he's power pulled down right there, we're looking at him on the map too right now as you're turned around. That little stretch yesterday, he spent 2 hours in a 20 to 30 yard stretch. You have to guess there's multiple spawners, there's multiple cruisers along that part of that seawall.
And I think that's the case, Mark. I mean, yeah, there's probably different beds in there. And as you guys have been talking about how they will move in and out. I mean, it's not just, okay, here's the magic time, the day, and then everybody's going to do it. If he saw those cruisers yesterday and or the beds are made, I'm sure that's what he's going for. And I'm sure that's what Jacob's here. You just have to find those spawning areas. And with the weather the way it is today, I think things are going to be replenishing. And this might be one spot, but he might go try and find others that will duplicate the same thing. Just because he didn't look at them yesterday, that might have, gave him the opportunity to replenish and get ready for the spawn today. So it seems like everything he's doing is right. It kind of reminds you of the classic, back in Oklahoma last year, doesn't it? He's just not waiting for the last day.
Bob, I'll tell you one thing Edwin loves when we do is you ought to ask him what he's throwing right now. No, I'm joking.
Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Why would you even start something like that? That's not fair to Robbie Floyd or to Edwin.
Well,
either way.
Yeah, Mark, you're always there to start trouble. You're about to see what he's throwing because I'm gonna put my cameraman Tom in the boat. I get to hunt around and find the guys. Well, he didn't have a cameraman with him to start the day. You know what? He's about to have one now, so you'll see.
Yes,
love it.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's got more than 20.
Yeah,
he's having a hard time finding a fish small enough to call with that one he just put in a live well.
Yeah,
he's got more than 20 pounds.
He's either got 20 or he's got 5 4-pounders just straight across the
real
board.
Quick.
I think you're right, Davey. I'm watching those. He brought out 3 or 4. There you go. There's a good look at the one that he's trying to cull, and those are good fish.
The ones that he's looking at are healthy, stocky twins.
They are. He's got more than 20. This is so cool. I mentioned earlier how long I've been involved in this sport. Able to sit, as in my son's case, in Afghanistan and watch first and second place in the Bassmaster Classic live.
Jacob just caught one, but I don't think it's going to be a big fish. Let's take a look at it. So things are starting to turn on, and with this sun getting higher and higher, they're going to be seeing them even better. And Jacob just caught one, literally. Edwin, I'm sure, heard that, but he's calling a little bit bigger size. Jacob trying to make sure it'll measure because you have to have at least 16 inches. And I think that was a concern coming into this tournament. Guys are used to catching 14, 15-inch fish and that being okay. But when you have to have a 16, I mean, that puts a little more pressure on you.
Looking at a keeper right there for Jacob Proskik.
Yeah, that looks to be a keeper for Jacob Proskik going into the live well, and every little bit helps.
So, Bob, let me get this straight, just so we know this. We're going to put a camera in Edwin's boat here in a few minutes.
Tell me that again, Mark.
We are going to put a camera in Edwin's boat?
Yeah, I'm going to get Tom to do that. I figure you wanted to see what he's doing. You're good with that, right?
We're 100% fine here at the expo. I'm going to say everybody that's watching us on Bassmaster Live is like, get that camera in that boat now.
Yeah,
Robbie, thank you so much. That is fantastic. I know you're going to stay with him. We'll stay on top of you.
Great with him because he is sight fishing, and I'm trying to be quiet.
Great that we got, man, we had just seen the story kind of break wide open
no
here.
Doubt.
We have set up the battle royal maybe for the final day.
Real quick. We talked about this yesterday morning. We talked about Edwin Evers. And we literally, when we came in here, Edwin Evers, for the first time I've ever covered him. Edwin, you catching him? I am. Catching a lot? I am. You don't hear that from Edwin.
You don't, but we talked about one other thing. This is going to be a classic that, in my opinion, somebody that's diverse and fishes different ways each day, or even within each day, will be the guy that wins, and he is somebody that is definitely doing that.
Well, a year ago, he had that special little hole in the Elk River up above the Grand Lake that sealed the classic for him. Can he do it again this year? Is that what it's going to take for whoever would be the winner of the 2017 Bassmaster Classic? More to come. Do not go anywhere.
The 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods is brought to you by Shell Rotella, Yamaha, Triton Boats, Toyota, Power Pole, and by Skeeter Boats.
Is there a place where the underwater images are the clearest you've ever seen? We're seeing every fish, we're seeing every detail of structure, and where every bottom contour was visible, where whatever you wanted to see below the surface was real. Do you want to go? Structure Scan 3D is the future of fishing. We can show you how to find fish faster and catch fish in a way you've never experienced. Let's get them.
Eat, sleep, fish. A motto all Skeeter owners live by, with 16 consecutive NMMA CSI Consumer Satisfaction Awards. Our competition doesn't even come close. Right now, buy Save Fish with up to $1,500 in instant rebates through March 31st, including the newly redesigned limited edition FX series. Visit us for all the details at the Expo Center, booth 1225.
Champions aren't born. They're created. Every turn of the prop, every mile on the lake, every cast of the rod, every fish they catch, and every pound they weigh. It builds who they are. It builds a legacy.
Now for your 2016 Bassmaster Angler of the Year!
If you're camping, fishing, hunting, or off-roading, we call it sea-pecking. In 1958, Dick Seapeck wrote the book. He was the creator of the original adventure tire. Dick Seapeck has a complete line of adventure tires and wheels. As the originator, Dick Seapeck knows what you need. Tires engineered for adventure, traction, reliability, and durability. If you're camping, fishing, hunting, or off-roading, oh yeah, you're sea-pecking now. Dick Seapeck tires, proudly made in the good old USA.
Facts matter. All monofilament is not the same. Berkley is the strongest, smoothest, most dependable monofilament line in the world. Why would you risk your fishing trip to a line that's made who knows where just to save a buck? Berkley has been making and perfecting trilene in America for over 75 years. I spool nothing less than the best. That's Berkley trilene, and that is a fact.
It's the 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, being brought to you live by Berkley.
Day 2 of the Classic. So glad to have you with us on this Saturday morning. I hope the chores are taking care of themselves, because you might want to spend a little time with us here today, as much as you can possibly stand. Guys, if you only had an hour to spend with us, which hour and a half would you pick?
I'm going to go with the next 4 hours.
The next 4 hours.
Yes.
I asked for 1 hour, but that's cool. That's all right. Yeah,
I truly would have. If you'd asked me that question this morning at 6, I would have said 12:30 till 2:30.
I think the way the weather's setting up, lighter winds today, I think y'all better hang on for what's going to happen after lunch. Really, our last hour is going to be good.
Plenty has happened in the last hour we just watched here, including this. Brent Ehrler.
The cool thing, we just mentioned the wind. It's helping the side fishermen.
I feel so good.
He's sight fishing in a different way.
Oh my goodness.
The wind was blowing through that stuff yesterday. He couldn't see those sticks move around. It's calm. He saw a stick move, pitched in there, and caught a really nice fish.
We saw this just before the break. Edwin Evers culling up in a big way. And Davey, as you say it, there's no way that he's got 18 to 20 pounds. He's more than likely got a little bit over that. And mark this, where his boat's at right there, where he's pulled down, he lost a lot of fish right there yesterday.
He did. The wind blowing, I think, probably caused a lot of that. He couldn't see quite like he would like to. In perfect conditions, sight fishing, because we can't foul hook a fish and keep it. If you hook it on the outside of the mouth, you have to release that fish. So the best case scenario is that you can actually see the bait and see when the bait is in the fish's mouth before you set the hook. When you can't do that, it's a lot tougher.
What's amazing to me is looking at that unofficial leaderboard down on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, how quickly a couple guys can run away. Now, and here's the thing, a lot of our deep water fishermen, whether it's Iaconelli or Clifford Perch or Bradley Roy, granted, they're not catching them every single cast, and they're going to make up their ground as this day goes on. But there is a 2-hour window in the morning on Conroe right now that is incredible, where you can see guys leave the pack.
Edwin has done that the last 2 days. He made hay like a lot of guys were relying on in the first 2 hours of the morning with the shad spawn. Had a plan B to go right from there to the sight fish. The wind hurt him with that yesterday. I don't think he ever really helped himself all day long. But today, I think he'll improve his stringer quite a bit sight fishing.
And I'm going to tell you something. If you look here at Walden Marina, you look at Edwin Evers, kind of in the back just doing some sight fishing. And out in the mouth of the marina is Mike Iaconelli. And I'm going to tell you, Mike understands this game. Mike's going to know when spectator boats start going to him,
yep.
Mike is going to know things are going on.
Yep. The hard thing for these guys, though, that are fishing offshore, the guys that really caught them good yesterday, that are only getting those 5 or 6 bites a day, when those bites don't happen and you know you're behind and you know you need to catch up, don't spin out and do something crazy. But then at the end of the day, if you never did get those 5 bites, you could be out of the tournament.
Okay. Hey guys, had a really fun morning. Really fun. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like yesterday morning. It just happened. Just bam, 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 bam. And today they're a little bit bigger than yesterday. Yesterday I only weighed, I think, 3 of those fish, and today I got a pretty dead good sack. So it was a fun morning. I lost a 7-pounder, 6-7-pounder right there yesterday. And I'm trying to ease back up here. I spent 3 hours yesterday trying to catch this fish, but man, if I can get this fish in here today, it could really bump my stringer up even more. So I'm not going to get in a big hurry today. I'm going to do a little sight fishing, may go back out offshore here in a little while if I don't find one in here worth fishing. It's just me and Jacob, so it's a pretty big area. This area's got big ones in it, so I'm gonna look around, see what I can find, and hopefully show you guys a great big one here in a minute. One of them Conroe slaunches, as Zona would say.
Oh, I hear you.
We actually saw him lose that fish yesterday. He caught the male twice and lost that big fish. The first time he caught the male, the very next pitch, I'm pretty sure it was, he lost that big fish yesterday.
You guys did such a good job of breaking it down yesterday. Seawall everywhere in this half of the lake. Finding the place where you're going to find spots like this, it takes some special, some study for sure.
It does, and not many lakes are set up like this. Normally when you're fishing seawalls, you look for seawalls with a little deeper water on them. Here you have to look for seawalls with shallower water on them where those fish can spawn. Just the opposite of what you normally look for.
And here's the thing. There's a couple factors in here that you can add up that this is a major player on this lake. Number one, if you look at the fish that were leaving, a lot of those post-spawn fish that Iaconelli was catching, it's obvious that there is meat that comes in here to spawn and make babies. The other side is, if you don't know who Jacob Proskik is, one of the best sight fishermen on planet Earth. And Jacob
I don't
Proskik
see
lived
her.
in here most of the day yesterday.
I'm going to sit here a little while to see if she shows back up. But, you know, there's a chance she got caught last night. They got a Friday night jackpot with 50 boats in it. And I need to look up on the deal and see how big a one they caught last night, because it could be that fish right there. I won't be sick if it is.
Mark that fence in your mind for just a second here. We'll tell you why.
What was?
Hang it.
His boat. It looks a little different because his boat was. He was looking from a different.
Opposite way.
Yep.
And that was the fish he actually,
And then I
like you
spent
said.
3 more hours and never catch her.
There's a fence in the terracotta pipe. You notice from both angles. He just was. Had his boat in a different position there.
But you also heard him talking about right there that there was a tournament last night that he's worried that fish may have got caught.
You think somebody watching live saw that fence on that terracotta?
Oh, not a chance.
Yeah, got me a starting spot.
Oh, yeah. He's hooked that male twice. He probably won't bite anymore.
And again, this was the same area, just down away.
That's yesterday's stuff we're looking at,
Right.
right? Just to reinforce that.
See the difference in the water yesterday and today? See the ripple? Just that little ripple on the water changes the way you can sight fish effectively or not. It really, really does. It's set up for it today for somebody to bust a really big bag in the afternoon sight fishing. And we got 2 really good sight fishermen inside this marina. Ike's just on the outside. It's technically, I guess you'd say, still the marina area.
Right.
But he's banking on these postbone fish to move out where he made his hay yesterday.
He's not
Perfect
there.
staging area for those fish leaving and some coming in.
There.
You can hear him saying.
Chance some more new fish could be moving in, though. There's a new moon coming Monday.
Again, we talked about those misses yesterday. This was the 3rd of those notable ones we watched here on Bassmaster Live.
You don't see him do that very often. Lose 3 fish sight fishing.
No, not at all.
How would you like to slide out of the condo, have a front row seat to unofficial leader Edwin Evers, Jacob Proskik, Iaconelli in the mouth of the marina?
Yeah,
It's the place to be.
Get a hot steaming cup of that.
I had him bump the spinnerbait or the swim bait. It just think a good boil behind it. I don't know how big he was, but he was out there chasing some bait. I don't know what else to do. Try a swim jig.
I want you to look at the backgrounds.
Just keep rotating until you find out what he wants to bite.
Look at the backgrounds of where, like,
Golly.
We all ducked here on this.
He had it too.
That's some
Natural
good live
reaction.
coverage when we all duck.
Yeah.
I think I even said, look out.
My line jumped and went slacking to the side. Must be a little one.
Britt's had a fish bite, a swim bait, and that swim jig, and swirl at it. I'm betting it's a fish that's on a bait. He's throwing there multiple times.
But here's the great thing about this right now. You're really getting to see the two different faces of Conroe. If you look at the background of where Edwin is, really lower to mid-lake, very residential, seawall, boat docks, marina, and stuff like that. And you look at Brent Ehrler, it looks like he's on another lake.
Yep. Like 1,000 miles away.
Exactly.
It really does.
And that's why, coming in this tournament is Tommy, I listened to one of your live wells that you did with Keith Combs, and he made the comment, you're going to be able to come to this lake and do what you want to do, and it'll all somehow work.
Yeah.
But, I mean, literally, that looks like two different lakes.
His quote was, every day we'll have 10 guys at the top who are possibly doing 10 different things, and it's not far from that.
The incredible thing, they're doing two totally different things. Visually, it looks like 1,000 miles away from one another, but they're exactly the same
They're
thing.
doing the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. Adapting to what you have around you. On this lower end, you got seawalls, not a lot of cover for those fish to spawn around, so you ease along with a trolling motor on a calm day like we have today and physically see those fish and fish for them. On this upper end, the fish are doing the same thing, dirtier water, more cover. You have to improvise and fish for them a different way, but the fish are doing the same thing.
I guarantee you, Ehrler, a lot of his fish are blind sight fishing. I guarantee
absolutely.
you a lot of them are.
Yep. He missed a fish twice right there. We're watching Edwin miss fish. He's doing the same thing. But just don't give up on that fish. They'll continue to bite when they're spawning like that.
I'm going to throw that in there. Too calm for it.
Looks kind of big. Golly, it's so hard
Probably
to
throwing
see.
in a crappie for all I know.
I don't even see a bed.
That was not a bass. What's that? That wasn't a bass.
The joys of sight fishing.
I had one yesterday. I was fishing and pitching the wood like this, and right behind the motor, one splashed. I mean, like right at the corner. The guy watching goes, "That was a bass." No, the guy just watching. He goes, "That was a bass." I mean, it almost landed in the boat. I don't know if it was, but it was just funny hearing his reaction. Heard one. Where? They're kind of active right in Jason Bay, you know?
I think the bed might be like way deep. Can't even find the fish now. It didn't act all that spooky. I'm gonna back up just a little bit, get off of it.
The other thing sitting there staring at Evers and Ehrler right now compared to a lot of guys that don't have anything in their live wells that we're covering.
Just
how methodical and slow they are right now.
Taking it slow and easy and having time to mess with fish that don't really want to bite or that you can barely see, like I can't see at all.
It's so cool to watch first and second in the Bassmaster Classic doing the same thing as we talked about a little earlier, but in very, very different environments, different ends of the lake.
Anything that resembles a bed or a fish from right here.
One thing that I think is very interesting, Brent was just talking about a fish that almost jumped in his boat yesterday. Oh.
Eric, that was your fault. Made me say something to you. It's still your fault. I don't care. Still your fault. Shoot. I didn't get a good look to see how big he was. If it was a keeper, it would have cold. My smallest one in there is just a keeper, and he's real, spawned out, skinny. That was weird. It kind of, that fish bit out a ways. I wasn't expecting that. I pulled it over something out a ways and just let it sink, and I kind of just dropped my rod tip. Instead of letting line out, I just dropped my rod tip to it, and I looked, and it about pulled out of my hand.
We should get one right here.
Oh, I see you. I see you. Do I ever see you?
There he is. Don't think he'll quite do it. He might. I thought there'd be one there. See, we finally got a little bit of shade that didn't get just hammered. Didn't get hammered by the wind there. I don't think he's quite going to do it, but let's see. No. They got to be 16 inches, and he wasn't. So, but that's a bite, and shows you can get them. So we'll get them. Next one might be a 10-pounder.
Under, so it didn't keep. Clifford Perch still amazingly, incredibly looking for his second fish of the day. That's almost hard to comprehend.
It really is. And if you weren't tuned in this morning, listen to us. This guy was so confident yesterday, it was a little spooky.
No doubt.
And he's got to have snakes in his head right now, thinking, I can't believe I'm not catching, because he caught 30 fish yesterday.
Exactly. One of the main things that he was saying when we asked him, how How many keepers did you catch? I don't know. Lots is what he said.
I did
today.
just throw 30 out there, but lots
really,
is 30 to me.
much slower day. And it's really been, if you look at the guys that are fishing offshore so far, at least the guys that we are covering, it's been a lot slower.
It has. I've mentioned it a few times. What do you do? When you are only getting 5 or 6 bites, you know you have to fish painfully slow, and you don't get those bites. What do? You don't speed up. You got to stick with your plan, and unfortunately it doesn't always work. We saw one of the best, probably
the best.
The best. It happened to him yesterday.
No doubt. Keith Combs probably the biggest surprise of the event, looking at Clifford Perch hooked up right now.
Not very big. Little one.
A lot of guys fishing a lot like him yesterday complained about that. I had lots of bites, little ones, lots of small ones. He didn't have that problem yesterday, but quite a few did.
Now, Davey, what's going on in the minds of guys like Ike and James Elam, who have 0, and Alton Jones?
That's what I mentioned. Those guys, it's a struggle.
3 hours in and nothing.
3 hours in, nothing, and you know that you've missed 2 of the bites you were counting on, and you just can't make up ground when you're fishing that painfully slow. The natural reaction is to speed up and run more places, and that's what a lot of guys did yesterday that didn't weigh in the limit.
Tommy, you know something we haven't done yet?
What do you think? What were you talking about?
I'd like to see some things again from this morning. Just tuning in to Bassmaster Live. Heck, if you're just
something that might fall under the category of the Power Pole Replay of the Day.
You read my mind, my friend.
Here it is. Check it out. Power Pole Replay of the Day. What a day we have had so far. The complete top end of this tournament. Turning over a good bit. Edwin Evers jumping out to 20 pounds very, very quickly. But how about Brent Ehrler, who started with the lead, doing his own thing and getting right back into a virtual tie with Edwin Evers? It doesn't get any better than that.
Exactly right, Tommy. That's going to be your Power Pole Replay of the Day. It has been the Edwin Evers, Brent Ehrler story so far.
It's a replay from a year ago. 2 guys pulled out away from the field, and one of the same 2 guys is hooked up with another great angler doing the same thing this year.
What more do you want on day number 2 than 2 of the best on planet Earth having at it?
Pulling out with about a half a lap lead on the rest of the field.
Edwin Evers laying the foundation for a possible repeat in the Bassmaster Classic from last year on Grand Lake. Brent Ehrler showing up with the confidence everyone who's in the know knows he possesses his ability to win the Classic. Both of them coming head to head. Is that going to be the final matchup on the final day? Well, we got this day to take care of first, and who knows? It may be a completely different thing by the time we get through the end of today. The thing is, don't go anywhere because it's all popping right now.
The ultimate predator has evolved again. Now, Yamaha B.A.S.S SHO Performance is prowling the waters in 4 hungry, exciting new models. With their 4 valves per cylinder and double overhead cam fuel-injected design, these advanced 4-stroke predators are taking performance to a whole new level. Vicious, lean, efficient. V.A.S.S SHO. The pack is growing.
I spent the first year on Bassmaster Elite Series mostly living out of my Tundra. My second year on tour, I won at Bull Shoals. My third year on tour, I won at the St. Lawrence River.
Brandon Polinick takes the title.
Idaho's about as far away from bass fishing as you can get. I definitely want to be one of the best guys from the West. All the big names are known from California. I want to be the big name known from Idaho.
Toyota, let's go places.
Let us make this absolutely clear. The days of wasted casts and missed opportunities are over. New Mega Imaging takes fishing into the megahertz range for the first time, because higher frequency sonar means higher frequency of this. Without a doubt, it's the most detailed picture of the world below ever. And it's only from Humminbird.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
It's a game changer.
This thing steers just as easy in the thick stuff as it does out there in the open water.
It's much quieter, it's more responsive.
Hit one button, you're locked down.
It's holding us right in place. It's anchoring us right here.
That new spot lock is dead on.
You know, the only fighting you have to worry about is fighting the fish now.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's the 2017 Geico Bassmaster Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, being brought to you live by Berkeley.
Well, here we go. Bassmaster Live, day number 2, Bassmaster Classic, Lake Conroe, Texas, and it has been a good one so far. It was kind of a slower grind throughout yesterday, and as we came out of the gates today, fireworks happening. Well, at least for 2 anglers so far. Edwin Evers, big doings early this morning, backed up by Brent Ehrler. Today we're going to get back online with you here on Bassmaster Live, starting at 12:30 Eastern Time. Going to run that all the way to 3:30 Eastern Time, and if you were with us yesterday, lots of things happened late in the day, and as you say it, Davey Height, we might see that again today.
I think we definitely will, even better than yesterday. The guys that wanted to sight fish in the afternoon once the sun got up, well, first of all, it didn't ever really get up yesterday, covered by the clouds. It was up, but covered by the clouds. The wind really hurt those guys who want to sight fish. Today's a perfect day for it. This afternoon, I think we'll see some big stringers.
Taking a look at our Humminbird lay of the lake. Really the story of the morning is Walden Marina. Kind of call it the bottom end of mid-lake. I think that's fair to say. Right around the corner from our Takeoff. See Edwin Evers in the back of it. Michael Iaconelli back to his place where he caught him yesterday, right in the mouth of it, catching those transition fish. And Davey, there's a lot of other action in that marina. We'll hit it in a second. And as you look up, as we fly up the lake, our Humminbird lay of the lake, see Bradley Roy, slow morning so far. Keep going up the lake. Like you say, Davey, a different environment.
A different environment up there today than yesterday. I knew the wind was blowing yesterday. We had the T&H Marine forecast, but Brent Ehrler yesterday said it was rougher than Lake St. Clair for me to move around yesterday. It really hurt us. Yep. He's way ahead of schedule, other than he's lacking one important thing, a 9-pounder, but he's fishing really, really good today, and certainly more 9-pounders up there.
And as far up the lake as you can get, Cliff Crochet, a big day on day number 1. Started off solid this morning, still looking to fill his limit out. How about this? We have a Davey Height and a one David Walker, my friend. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Is this the first time on the Bassmaster Live set at the Classic for you?
It is. Unfortunately, yes.
Come on, that's not so bad, is it? Come on. I took a shower this morning.
No, it's definitely something that I am honored to be asked to do. But it's something that I wish I had some fishing to be doing instead of. So.
Well, what's interesting, David Walker, is about 2 years ago, one Kevin Van Dam came onto the very first Bassmaster Live set. He was with us all weekend long, and he made the comment. He said, man, it has been a true honor to be with you guys. I hope I'm never with you again in my entire life.
I think that's well said,
hey,
yes.
You've been sitting. I've been watching you with Jerry McInnes behind the set. You've been watching a lot of the footage so far this morning.
It's hard not to. I mean, this fishing going on is great. It's really good.
Very up your wheelhouse on how you like to fish. Kind of break down what you've been watching on this lake and your history on Conroe.
I fished here several times in the Toyota events that they had here. So when they're showing where the guys are at, I'm very familiar with what they're dealing with, what those places are like. So to me, it's even more interesting because I can relate to where they are and what's going on there. And what's really cool about this lake is it's almost 2 lakes. Once you go north and cross that underneath the bridge, you're talking banks that are just flat banks, no houses on them, lots of standing timber. As soon as you come below that, you're fishing nothing but seawalls, boat docks. There's no vegetation that touches the water on the lower end of that lake. So it's very different when you go from one side of that lake to the other. And it's not a long ways. This is a short run.
Coming into this event, look, man, this is a power fisherman's dream, right? I mean, come on. Put a flipping stick in your hand, a frog in your hand, a crankbait, and go to work. Now, I have been in David Walker's boat. I believe you may own 1 to 2 spinning rods.
I'm not very good with those, I can tell you right now.
Well, I've looked at them, number 1. But number 2...
They're still really new. I hadn't line on them for a very long time.
Here was the most bizarre thing yesterday. Looking at the Yamaha Taste the Bait, Davey Height, we looked at a couple guys. Number 1, Clifford Perch. Number 2, Michael Iaconelli dominated yesterday. Finesse fishing the majority of the day.
It was truly amazing because when I saw this lake, I'm thinking power fishing, and most of the field did yesterday. But Mike Iaconelli caught some really, really big fish, had one of the top stringers. Fishing as finesse as I like to get. I guess you could go another level, go drop shot or whatever. Sure. But he was fishing a shaky head jig using a Berkeley Havoc bottom hopper, red bug. Now this isn't red bug. This is the size that he was using. Red bug is, this translucent red with a green flake like so. But this bait on a shaky head, fishing very slowly, very methodically with this bait. Like I said, with a jig head on it. The key that he found that where he caught most of his fish, it was an outside bend of a creek channel coming out from this marina where Edwin Evers is, Jason Proskik is, and the fish that he was catching on this bait were post spawn. Did not want to bite a crankbait, did not want anything power fishing. The whole key was to finesse fish with these baits very slowly, very methodically. The problem with that is when you're relying on one bite every hour or every hour and a half and you don't get that like he's done this morning, the wheels start coming off. You want to hurry up. You want to throw baits that you can cover ground with. And a lot of guys did that yesterday and didn't catch anything.
I agree.
Looking at a bottom hopper right there, a little Berkeley Havoc bottom hopper. You look at that worm right there. And I'm going to throw this to both of you right now. You hold that little worm up there. This is a lake that has 5 to 15 pounders swimming in it, right? Iaconelli catching huge fish on that yesterday. Is that from the pressure that this lake receives?
Absolutely. I think that has everything to do with it, because when you come to a lake that has a lot of big fish in it, but it gets fished a lot, those big fish act differently. There's a reason people like to go to, say, Mexico and go bass fishing, because those fish are easy to catch. They don't get fished for a lot. Fish that get fished for a lot get harder to catch, and I think that's exactly why you're seeing these finesse baits or guys that are doing something, they're really making that fish react to it. Like we seen Kevin yesterday with that deep dive and jerk bait. He was making it hit the rocks, and I think that's what was key about that.
Here's one thing we can't quite get an answer on, and we've thrown it to everybody in this tournament. You have got some of the best dock skippers on planet Earth. Andy Montgomery, Matt Herron, Dave Lefebvre, okay? How come as we get into a double box right here looking at Ehrler and Edwin Evers, if you look at all the boat docks on this lake, I asked Hackney, I said, if you put your trolling motor down and you start on the dock on that lower end and just go skipping docks, I said, how many bites can you get? He said, I can get just enough bites to get sent home. Why is that right now?
Good analogy. I don't know. I wish I knew. I'd do better in all the tournaments when you know for sure this is what's going to happen. But it's one of those things when you get to the lake, obviously, that's the first obvious cover, so you're going to start there and start fishing it. Once you do like Hackney said, you've fished it enough to realize, hey, this is really not what's going on, then you move away from that. What the reason is or why they're doing that, who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different answers for that. Maybe the shad spawn, maybe because they're spawning, whatever the reasons might be. But I can tell you one thing about the area where Edwin is, that is really a pond off of the lake. That thing is its own environment right in there. Those boat docks that you're seeing out there, a lot of those are in 30 plus foot of water. Those fish that are in that little area right there, they can live in that place. They don't have to go in and out of that. That's a resonant place. There's some real shallow bars in there. There's lots of cover that's overhanging out there. And I think right now what's good for Evan is that the fish are not living underneath those deep docks right now. They're around that bank. So most of those resident fish that usually live out there around those marina docks are over there on the bank where he can fish for them.
All right, we're almost midday, getting there. Midday on day number 2 of the Classic. You look at two guys that have, you say, they got a half a lap on the field right now. David Walker, and I want to throw it to you, Davey. Which one do you like as far as techniques going? And look, these are two guys that are both obviously capable of winning this event. Which one do you like holding up?
Personally, I think that I like the way that Brent's fishing over Edwin's, only because my personal style, I would have more confidence in the area that he's fishing because he has so much more shallow cover there. The shad are up there. Everybody's talking about the shad spawn. So the bait's there and the cover's there. The fish don't have a reason to leave. I think he can catch fish that are spawning and done spawning, where Edwin, I think, as soon as that fish is done spawning, he's going to swim out away from him. I think that, to me, is the biggest difference.
I would agree with you 100%, except
yes,
we talked about this coming in yesterday. I think it's going to take more than one approach, more than one technique. And I don't know how much you've been able to watch it live, but Edwin the last 2 days has made some serious hay with a shad spawn deal and
45 minutes. 45 minutes.
Caught 17 yesterday and 20 plus this morning. And then he goes to this. If it was just these two guys doing what we're seeing them do now, I agree with you 100%. But the cool thing about Edwin's deal, at least for the first 2 days, he's been able to have a big old security blanket in his boat early in the morning.
And that's huge. I don't care if you've got 10 pounds in a live well or 17, you fish better all day if you've got those fish in there to start with. No doubt about it.
Especially side fishing. I think you're a little similar to me. You probably don't necessarily like to do that unless you have to, but I'm pretty good at it if I got 22 in the live well. Right. When I start.
All of a sudden, I've got all the time in the world.
Yeah, baby.
Exactly
I can be
right.
patient.
Yeah,
all right, take a look at
agree
this,
with
at least in Bassmaster Classic competition. Now, don't get me wrong, Brent Ehrler has a lot of experience in tournaments, but in Bassmaster Classic competition, well, you look at Brent Ehrler right there, classic appearances, 2 compared to Edwin, 16. But the other side of that, really, in classics, I want you to look at those top 10s. Edwin will have been there tomorrow. He will have been there.
Absolutely.
Not the case for Brent Ehrler. Don't get me wrong. Brent Ehrler has closed the door on many, heck, I believe he's won a Texas Bass Classic here, but not here, but in the state of Texas in the last couple of years.
Those are great stats, but they're a little misleading.
They're skewed.
It makes Brent Ehrler look like a rookie, and he's certainly not.
No, he's not. But
you can't argue with Edwin's success.
We just like to put up really lopsided stats at times, Davey. It's just what we do.
I think in those stats right there, Brent is where Edwin was last year at this time. He's nervous about it. He's very guarded about wanting to win this event and knows how much it would mean to him. Edwin this year has got that done. He's already got that classic in the live well. He's fishing so much better. He's very comfortable with it. He's willing to take a risk, and he's going to be comfortable with that risk. Brent, on the other hand, it needs that spot to hold up for him, and he'll make them bite if they're there.
Yep, I agree. We saw a different Edwin Evers than we've ever seen.
That's what I heard was the same thing, that he was way more relaxed. And you know how Edwin is. Normally, he's very guarded about what's going on. He doesn't answer a lot of questions.
No,
he doesn't want
no,
that
he's
media.
Not. No, he's not. No, he's
We're talking about Edwin Evers, right?
Hey, I want you to do me a favor, real quick. I want you to talk about that. It's not. Oh, I got to be careful. I got to walk a tightrope on this. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. The two hardest anglers I've ever had to cover in my life in the Bassmasters is Denny Brower, number one because he's a grizzly bear, and number two is Edwin Evers because he wanted to run away from me and not speak. Hey, Monday after the tournament, it's wide open, but that's just the way he's wired.
Sure. I mean, you have to be a little bit guarded on what's going on. Davey can attest to that. If these guys find out something, and it's found out inadvertently through him telling Bass, oh, I'm going to this creek and I'm going to throw this, that's not a good idea for Edwin to give that up. It may seem like a good idea for the media guys or somebody wanting to know
Edwin
this
wouldn't
information.
tell me what he was having for lunch
He would
before
not
an
tell you
event.
that. And I'm sure that's been acquired over a long time. That's a habit that's hard to break at this point. With that classic trophy in the live well like he's got, he's going to be a different guy. I really think he is.
But in Edwin's defense, great point, because it's David Walker sitting here. We've roomed together, stayed in the same house together with Kevin Van Dam and Scott, and
yes,
never tell one. I mean, we eat together, we sleep together, we drink together, but we don't share fishing secrets.
No, I mean,
These guys
we're
are
still
good.
competing against each other. It's still a competition. It's not, a group effort. It is, you are up against the other guys. You want to catch more fish than them. And if you find a little advantage that will get you ahead of the group, you're not telling everybody.
And can't say this enough. We talked about it earlier this morning, talked about it yesterday at Media Day. I had never in my life experienced the conversation that I had with Edwin. I said, you don't want to talk to me, do you? And he's like, no, I do. I said, okay. I said, can you walk me through it? I said, you catching them? I am. Going to have a good tournament. I said, we're about done, aren't we? He said, absolutely. But he's never, in 13 years of my time covering every single event with him, he has never looked at me and said, I'm on them and I'm ready to go.
The cool thing about our sport, whether you're a fisherman or now an analyst like I am, you have to be part-time psychologist. Because sometimes
it's not
silence,
part-time.
silence tells you everything that you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a little too much talk tells you. You have to read between the lines.
That's right.
Yes, and FYI, covering this is not part-time psychologist. Trust me on that.
I need a full-time one.
Yeah. No, I'm convinced that today's the day somebody's going to catch a 28 to 32 pound bag. I think it's very doable in this lake. I mean, we always talk about it happening, but Brent showed us yesterday when he brought in that 912 that one cast is going to make a huge stringer, and you got a guy like Edwin right there that was holding up. We've seen him holding them up. They all look just alike. He doesn't have 20 because he's got a big fish. He's got 20 because he's got all
solid
big fish.
All solid fish.
He's definitely in position to catch one of those gigantic stringers. Everybody's on the water today. Somebody who had 2 fish yesterday could very well be the guy that catches a 20-plus pound, nearly 30-pound bag.
The story coming into this event, you can't talk about this enough. It's like the Patriots losing in the first round of the playoffs. The story coming into this event was the dominance, the history, and the knowledge Keith Combs has here. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you looked at the standings yesterday. What did you see with that? I know Davies' breakdown, and I want that again. What did you see with that?
Fishing what's going on and fishing what used to go on. It's very hard to break to fish for ghosts. You see it from day to day, let alone from year to year. A guy caught fish really great the first day doing this on this spot. The next day, you go back there and try to do the exact same thing again. When you do that from year to year, there's many times those spots aren't quite as good as they are. Plus, we've got a shad spawn going on. That's really affecting those offshore fish that he was counting on, because those shad are up there. The fish have moved away from them spots.
Take a look up in your right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner. A lot of the terms that you heard coming into this lake can turn into a washing machine, especially when you combine boat traffic and wind.
And I think I know why Brent Ehrler compared it to Lake St. Clair, those walls.
Exactly right. And
walls, for sure.
If you've never been to Conroe, if you look at that right there, what seems to happen from the mid to lower end of this lake, where it's obviously more populated, it's more bulkhead, seawall, stuff like that, those waves don't disappear.
No, they just ricochet off. They just bounce off of those seawalls and head back out. That's why you see there's really no rhythm to those waves. They look like they're just coming up and down from every direction, and they really are. That's, that's part of those seawalls. And like I said, the lower end of this thing is nothing but seawalls. And so when you get some wind, you're going to be affected. But when you're trying to fish up there close, even more so, those waves don't dissipate. They just ricochet around.
Here's something I talked about. From what we saw of Bradley Roy catching his fish yesterday, we didn't get to see him a lot, but he was fishing offshore, fishing really slow, looked like he was dragging soft plastics, that sort of thing. Not many bites, but quality fish. What do you do when you don't get those bites and you're 3 or 4 hours into the tournament?
Hurry up and try to catch one.
That's right.
It hasn't been the right choice for anyone yet. We'll see. But it hasn't been the right move. But what do you do? It's the Bassmaster Classic. Maybe he's making this move because it is his first Bassmaster Classic.
That's right. Sometimes you want to survive a day, too, to get back out there.
Good point. I'm not saying it's the wrong one.
Oh,
I'm saying it'd be
I
interesting
agree.
to see whether it's the right
works or not. Yeah,
Other side of it was he was big time quality over quantity yesterday. He was one of those anglers that was comfortable staying offshore, just like Iaconelli was, and just slow grinding his day away and making upgrades. Is being day 2. I want you to talk about this first. Davey, I want you to back him up on this. Walk me through this time of day when you've had a painful day. The voices that start coming now, and you start thinking about family, the stadium,
that's the thousands of people,
in,
the live camera behind you.
The live camera and us talking about you right now.
That's the pressure. You talked about it earlier. It is a classic. This is not just another day on the water. You can see the guy standing on a dock talking to him as he's fishing. There's us at the studio watching him fish. Everybody's all those eyes on you. It's a lot harder to get it done. It's a lot harder to be patient. You want to hurry up. You want that Bassmaster hook set on live. You don't want that to happen so bad that many times you force it into happening, and it's not gonna. Yesterday, I bet you Bradley fished as comfortable because there was none of that pressure.
Nobody watching.
There was nobody watching. He was out there. He wanted to do good, and he thought, well, I got to lose. I'm gonna stick it out here, fish nice and slow.
It's all good.
Today, whole different tournament. Different tournament.
That camera changes things in your boat.
Absolutely.
But it's a great question. My first classic, I panicked. The one thing I had in my mind, I'm just telling the truth, was not to win the classic. Enjoy it because it might be the only one you ever get to
just don't screw
participate in. And for goodness sake, catch one. And the other thing, if they ever do put a camera on me, don't backlash because everybody will laugh. Later in my career.
It's almost like throwing a first pitch out.
That's awesome.
David
that
Walker.
was funny, but it was the truth. Yeah,
it's almost like throwing a first pitch.
Hush about those pitches. Taste the bait.
Hey, real quick. We've done the Yamaha Taste the Bait. Have you seen the Yamaha first pitch from last night at the weigh-in, David Walker?
I have not. I would love to see it.
A scale of 1 to 10, all I could tell you is this man right here, Davey Height, was on fire on that mound.
You're part psychologist. You know what that meant. You know exactly what that meant.
That's right.
But to finish my point, my first classic, I was a hot mess, as you like to describe things. I was the epitome of that. But later in my career, I'd handle it better and ask myself, because I decided the only reason to be there was to win, not to just have a good time. Mm-hmm. I would ask myself, what can you do that will give you the best chance to win? I wouldn't think about what would happen if I went in with one fish or zero. Would I lose all my sponsors? What can you do to win? And sometimes it worked out great, sometimes it didn't. But I would never second guess. Give it 100%, and what can you do to have a chance to win this?
Absolutely. It's a different event because when you fish in the Classic, it is winning. All year we worry about points and checks. This one, that doesn't happen. You got to worry about winning.
Yep, I agree.
What a morning so far, guys. In all honesty, look at the line that is gathering here at the expo. How about that right there?
I took a picture of it yesterday. That camera's doing a little better job than my phone would. That line is 200 to 300 yards long. It's incredible the people coming in here yesterday, and today looks even bigger.
George R. Brown Convention Center. Come join us before the weigh-in later today. Great crowd yesterday at the ballpark, Minute Maid Ballpark. Great crowd for you, Davey Height. We'll talk about that more after the break. Everybody getting ready to come into the expo. And I'm going to throw it real quick. What do you look for, David Walker? What do you look for later today?
That somebody's going to catch a giant stringer today, and I'm curious to see if it's a top 10 guy or a bottom 10 guy.
Really?
I agree 100%. I said this morning, I think there'll be a big stringer caught this afternoon.
Is there potential? You look at how slow and methodical Edwin is now. He's comfortable. He knows he's done work today. Is there potential for one of these guys to roll up on one of those 30-pound stringers spawning, looking at him, or do you think that has passed?
Anything's possible in the Bassmaster Classic.
Good stuff right there. David Walker, thanks a bunch. Davey Height, we will see you in a little bit. Come join us again. Bassmaster Live.